Hello everybody and welcome back to the Summer Championships. Absolutely. Before we get this underway, a quick message about the Grand Finals. They have been scheduled. They are coming this Sunday, the 13th of September at 6 p.m. GMT or 6 p.m. UTC, whichever you prefer. We do have the Grand Finals. I'm not going to say who it's between because it would spoil the outcome of this series here on YouTube right now. Speaking of this series here, I am very sorry it took so long to get up on YouTube. The games were played some time ago now, and yeah, I should have put them up just after they were played, but the reason I didn't is largely to do with me no longer having the recording, so I did have to pull Zuta's perspective off Twitch to get these up, as I don't have my perspective, the recording is gone. But at least now the other series in the semi-finals will be being released at about the same time on the ESOC YouTube channel. So you can watch both of the semi-final series. Of course, it is the semi-finals, so there's two series, and the winners of those two series will progress to the finals, and you can watch, I guess, both of those series at about the same time, I suppose. Anyway, some good games in this one. The matchups are available in the description below, as always, with timestamps that you can click on to skip to that particular matchup or a particular game. But be wary, though, as looking at that list can be a spoiler for the outcome of the series. Yes, game number one. So the first game, which is about to start, and game number 4 were my favorites. So do check at least those two out if you don't have time for the whole video. It's quite a long series here. Game 1 and 4. Some definitely especially good stuff in those ones with regards to the AoE3 action, if you know what I mean. But without further ado, Grand Finals are this Sunday. So it's a perfect opportunity to tune in live if you haven't had that experience yet. It's a bit... you should come. But aside from that, here we have the semi-finals of AcerGame09 versus MusketJr, aka Bad Speed. Enjoy the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am joined by Interjection, and we are here for Saturday SmackDown slash tournament games. Sorry about the slight delay. We were just making sure that everything was set up, that there wasn't going to be any lag, no delay, nothing like that. But the players are ready to go. Best of 7 series between AcerGame09 and Bad Speed. I am looking forward to this. I think it is going to be a great matchup. Of course, trolling the community, they've got Iroquois and Ottoman, the two disallowed civs, selected and ready to go.
Are you ready?
AcerGame has clicked in as the Ottoman civilization.
Are you ready? No.
And I think we're ready to go.
Are you ready? No.
Interjection, do you want to run us through what we've taken to get to this point, essentially, while I pull up the map pool so that I can get ready to brief
Well,
people
firstly, it's worth noting the allow cheats has been selected for this particular match. We felt that the players... no. But they have selected the allowed cheats. I kind of like it like this, actually. We get to see their civilization selections for the first match when otherwise we wouldn't normally. It looks like Bad Speed is going to be picking Japan on Hudson Bay here for this first match. AcerGame still on Ottoman. We'll see what his civilization is in a moment. But these two players have come a long way to get this far. Of course, this is the semi-finals. I believe this is the round of 4. And then the next bracket is the round of 2, which is also known as the finals. Whoever wins this series, this best of 7 series, will progress to the finals of the ESOC Summer Championships, and the loser will be eliminated. Bad Speed, as I mentioned, both players have come a long way, but Bad Speed taking out some big names in this tournament. Bad Speed, obviously MusketJr, whose previous tournament performances have been sort of lackluster and underwhelming. I don't think he took them too seriously. But Musket, always been around from the beginning, quite from the early days. AcerGame clicking in again. It's awesome. He's just like, yep, I'm ready to go. Allow cheats, Ottoman, no problem.
This is
Japan
this
OP,
is,
right?
This is standard. This is standard AcerGame as well. This
Yeah.
is just like, for people who don't know AcerGame, AcerGame's been a part of the scene for quite some time.
Yeah, both have.
And this has just always been AcerGame. He's just like this big troll who is. He's just a character. We'll leave it at that.
Admin win game 1 then. Pick second. Yeah. But Bad Speed, he took out, I believe, Sompu Konku in this tournament. And, a very, very big name. Sompu, quite a strong player. It looks like AcerGame is going to pick Japan there. But Sompu, about round sort of brigadier-ish level. and has been around for a while there. Bad Speed switching over the Dutch.
Yeah.
That's fairly interesting.
I don't think he wants to play at Japan. Wow, if he's willing to play Dutch into Japan?
Wow, that's I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I know Bad Speed has been around from the beginning, and that means vanilla. And Dutch was one of his better civilizations on vanilla. I put that out there. He's a skilled player with Dutch. He's well versed with the civilization. But does it really stand up to Japan in terms of power level?
To be quite frank, no. It just straight up really doesn't. I would say Dutch is a fairly weak civ. As a Japan main, this is one matchup that I have never had any problems with and have never considered to be problematic. And I think look at AcerGame. Like, he's like, "Are we ready to go? Like, are you like, is this real life?"
Wow, he's fairly. Wow. Okay. Bad Speed, aka MusketJr, opening with Dutch into Japan. I feel as if Dutch here, doesn't have the early sort of pressure to deal with Japan there, and it doesn't either have any late game. Well, Japan just has a better late game presence, and so AcerGame switching to Aztec here.
I wonder if he's like scared. That would throw me for a loop as well as a Japan player, to have someone pick a civ into me
like
that
Dutch. Yeah.
Like,
what are the natives on Hudson Bay? Is there any funky stuff that could be going on?
I don't think so. It's like Huron, right? It's Huron and Cree, which isn't really
by no means very useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so
here we're finally starting to cycle into, I think, what we would consider a little bit more standard. I think eventually we're probably just going to end up on a German mirror. is likely where we're going to land.
Yeah. But Bad Speed doesn't want to play that matchup, so has changed to German here. We'll see how AcerGame responds. Perhaps he'll pick a mirror matchup. Perhaps he'll be okay with the Aztec versus German, or perhaps he'll lay down a new civilization and we'll have MusketJr select something else. But yes, MusketJr, as I was saying, has eliminated Tsompu and also Black Star OP, a fairly big upset and a fairly unexpected result, I might say. So Bad Speed coming a long way to do this far in this tournament. Do you see Japan coming out of AcerGame again?
Yeah.
Back to Dutch. Wow. So he's clearly
he has a build
versus Dutch.
He has a build up his sleeve. He probably has like some sort of cannon timing FF or something like that worked out that he has practiced. Of course, I don't know that. I haven't practiced with him. I haven't played with him whatsoever. But my assumption would be something along those lines. And it looks like AcerGame, either he's got this scouted out and he knows that there's something tricky going on, or he just, the other option is he probably just wants to play a Japan mirror because he feels more confident in the Japan mirror.
Switching back to Germany versus Japan here. AcerGame stays fine. He's going to click into this matchup by the looks of it. Switches back to Dutch here. I think AcerGame stays fine, meaning he's like, fine, I'll settle for it. You got me. If you're not going to take the other matchups, fine, I'll take this one. Of course, both players, he has not greened up yet. Perhaps he's still deciding here. But both players have the opportunity to switch matchups until they find one that they are happy with. And they will do so eventually because it's, you can't just switch to a civ that straight up counters another civ because your opponent's not going to click in there at all. So it's in their best interest to find a matchup they both agree on, whether that be a mirror or some other matchup here. But by the looks of it, could be seeing Dutch versus Japan in our first game here on Hudson Bay.
I'm curious why AcerGame doesn't want this matchup. I feel like as a Japanese player, and AcerGame is quite a good Japanese player. He plays Japan quite a bit. That this would be a matchup he would be perfectly fine with, and has a fairly good chance of starting off the series 1-0. And so I'm a bit baffled by the fact that he doesn't want to play this matchup. It could be that he wants to save his Japan for a matchup like a Japan mirror, for something like Japan versus German, where he's a little less comfortable. Maybe he wants to try and, maybe he doesn't rate, similarly to me, maybe he just doesn't rate Dutch as a civ and wants to try and beat them with something he thinks is a little weaker, so that he can use Japan as his trump card, one of his better civs, against a civ like India or something that Bad Speed is likely to play at some point within the next 2 or 3 games. That is going to give him an even better chance to continue. And you have to think of things like that when you're playing, in tournaments like this as well, right? Where You have to
Oh, he
consider.
clicks in.
All right.
He's
looks like it's
happy
gonna
with
be
it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first game in this best of 7 series. AcerGame09 versus Bad Speed, aka MusketJr. This is the semi-finals. The winner of this game will progress to the finals of the ESOC Summer Championships. The loser will be eliminated. Our first map is Hudson Bay. And the civilizations it's a fairly interesting matchup here, and we've briefly gone over the reasons as to why we think this might be the case. Perhaps Bad Speed has something in mind with the civilization that he's selected. Let's take a look at him here, spawning in the right-hand side of the map in the color red, playing as the Dutch there, spawning with all coin except 1 food and wood. I believe you can get miners 1 food and an extra coin there, and that would be ideal, of course, since the villagers cost the coin for Dutch, but not the case here. Could have some timing, as you mentioned, and perhaps you're saying something else about civilizations later on down the line, where you may or may not want to play a civ now because it may be better on a different map or against a different civilization when it is played later on. And this is interesting, and do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, and so in general, I think most people will agree that Dutch they're among the weaker civs. They're probably a bottom 2 or 3 tier civ in most high-level players' minds. And Japan, of the civs that are available, I mean, of course, we don't have Eero and Otto, which are pretty much instant losses for Japan. But aside from those civs, really Japan doesn't have too many weak matchups. And in general are probably considered one of the stronger-ish civs in the current map pool, or of the current civ pool available to both players. And as a result of that, it's just very strange to see Bad Speed willingly taking Dutch into Japan, and not just willingly taking it, like seeking out the matchup. This is the matchup he wanted to play. Every time that AcerGame would click over to Japan, there would be an immediate response of Bad Speed wanting to play Dutch. And so to me, that feels like he's got something tricky that he wants to do, something that he wants to make happen.
Here we go, though. Who's going to get this treasure there? There's a Tomahawk up for grabs. Definitely going to be AcerGame here. But I think here now, Bad Speed needs to head on out of here pretty sharpish if he wants to keep that Explorer alive, and certainly the Envoy as well. But AcerGame does pick up the Tomahawk. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I think what it's going to come down to is I think there's some planned build here from Bad Speed. The traditional way that I think most people would play this matchup from the Dutch's side is to play with a very aggressive barracks, like say forward barracks up here. The one thing you do have going for you early in the game in this matchup as Dutch is 1, you get aged up much quicker than your opponent, which is very important. And 2, you have skirmishers in Age 2, which outrange every unit that Japan can make. And so until they can get up some sort of critical mass, usually involving some sort of cav, which can take some time, you have a little bit of a window where you can kite around and apply pressure, especially to the coin mine. If we take a look at where AcerGame's coin mine with Japan is, it's a little bit out front. So it's not going to be terribly easy to be able to gather enough coin to get out enough cav to time and push back out and deal with those skirmishers. And that's traditionally the way that Dutch plays. But usually you can make some Yumis, you get together your Daimyo and maybe a couple of cav, and you just time and push out with Minutemen, 10 Yumi, 5 Ashy, and 3 cav, and you just kind of like smash everything together, and you just get up in their face, and there's nothing that Dutch can do.
Here we go. Big treasure here. 100 wood. Up for grabs here. Both polar bears are stunned currently. AcerGame has all of his scouting units in the area, including the Tomahawk here, but Bad Speed does come in with his Explorer there. That bear is fairly low on hit points, and 100 wood is a big deal here. Both players definitely want this because a bank is really influential for Dutch. It's going to be very much easier to get that up, and of course the shrines that AcerGame is going to want to be building out of this. This is big treasure here. And I think, really, Musket needs to grab this, since AcerGame, by the looks of it, has already picked up a 95 wood treasure in this game so far.
Wow. He's just going to concede the treasure. He knows he can't afford to lose another one of his explorers, and he just concedes the treasure.
Creeps away, the bear goes back to full health, and Bad Speed now has the opportunity to take it.
Yeah, he's just going to be able to correct shot and take it. That's a huge win for him. That extra 100 wood is going to be very, very large. And so far we can see no forward villagers. Oh, here comes the forward villager. I wonder if we're going to see a forward Rex. And we're going to see that style that I was mentioning, or if he has something else in mind, something perhaps age 3 focused with some sort of maybe cannon timing or something like that.
And I feel as if those are the two weaknesses you've pointed out for Japan. Sort of early pressure, whilst they're getting those shrines up early on, they have that sort of Achilles heel there. But also sort of timing pressure is their weakness as well. But Dutch isn't necessarily the civilization I would have thought to see against him. We'll have to see what he has in mind then. But fairly normal things from both players so far. AcerGame has, of course, put both his cherry orchards in the back there. He's gone up with the Portuguese consulate and has laid down a couple of shrines during transition. He's gone up with the Toshogu, or the big shrine here, which, obviously he's going to buff all of his other shrines along with Heavenly Kami. That does that as well. This makes them cheaper. And the Portuguese consulate makes them cheaper, actually. But all of these things, of course, very normal Japan things here. And it's fairly standard Japan boom. I'll have to see how AcerGame responds to this. The scout is going to come forward now. He has seen that barrel. Let's take a look at the queue. MusketJr has some skirmishers in queue, and those will be coming out shortly. But here Musket has obviously sent his 3 vills, and he's laid down a bank during transition and gotten up this second one here with the wood by aging up there. And that is sort of what's been going on early on in this game. Well, the second bank came from the bank wagon, but what are you thinking?
One thing that I did notice, we did see AcerGame, he, of course, is allied with the Portuguese consulate. He started to send the 3 fishing ships, and as his scout moved forward and saw the barracks, he immediately canceled it, meaning he's going to want to send bestiaros on 400 export, which is 100% the right call. He knows he's up against pressure now, and we'll see how he deals with it. Currently just has a single barracks, and here we can see now these skirmishers are starting to step their way forward, going to be able to start to contest the resources out to the front side of the base. And we can see Acer already transitioning villagers up to this north coin mine. He knows that he's probably going to have to get some sort of cav presence to be able to deal with these skirmishers and to deal with this pressure. And it's going to be a little bit of a miss by Musket if he doesn't go up there and at least scout that coin mine. Because the biggest thing that you want to be able to do here as the Dutch player is deny Japan from gathering coin.
Yep. Certainly, and that's going to block all kinds of units, especially the cavalry here. But villagers do head on into that town center and do take out one of the skirmishers here. By the looks of it, bad speed just going to siege down the Toshogu Shrine. Those villagers on the coin mine to the north are free to gather that. We do see obviously 2 batches of skirmishers and the 8 pikeman shipment by the looks of it joining the fray here. And this shrine looks like it might go down pretty quick. Though we do have a response from AcerGame in the form of, well, it was originally the Yumi Archers, but those appear to have been cancelled, and now Ashigari Musketeers are being trained. But if he's cancelled those Archers, it looks like these Musketeers are going to be out a little bit later on. Does have 3 in queue now, perhaps they'll pop any moment now, but that shrine's getting very low, and he really does not want to lose that. That would be a big loss for him.
Yeah, and he's going to lose it. I don't think he can stop it at this point. And I think a lot of it just comes down to some of his indecision in the early game. He's still trying to boom despite having lost one of his scouts very, very early. And I think his card order here is just not that good. We can see 4 villagers immediately in Age 2, which is like very strange. You normally wouldn't send 4 villagers probably at all, but certainly not before 600 wood. And so I think he's just gotten his build order a little bit mixed up, maybe is a little bit off, isn't well versed in this matchup. And as a result, the Toshuga Shrine has gone down. And his economy is not in a good spot. He's only at 90 shrine population total. He does have a market up, and he does have pretty good market upgrades. We can see he's currently researching Imperial Bureaucracy, which is probably his saving grace at this point, the fact that his eco is pretty good. And he is now up to 400 export, meaning he's going to be able to send bestiaros, which is going to help him stabilize. But we can see, look at bad speed. He has no intentions of sticking this out in Age 2. He's currently got the resources to age, and is going to be finding himself aged up here fairly quickly.
Absolutely, and I do like the decision there. Has done enough early pressure and just made a couple of units early on to really damage Japan then. And not going to continue. Going to go up to where sort of Dutch is strongest in the Fortress Age, where they have some excellent unit combinations. Certainly stronger than their Age 2 play. But with these remaining units, just going to run around, clear up these buildings here. But yes, as you mentioned, gathered all the resources, has clicked on up to the next stage, and by the looks of it, 700 wood is his next shipment, which he's now using to lay down a stable, another bank, and presumably some houses if he has. Well, he won't have very much wood left over, but certainly that's what he's doing with it there. And what do you think of this position right now for AcerGame without the Toshogu Shrine, with his opponent aging behind this?
It's really, really tough, because generally when Japan hits this point, your opponent's going to be aging at some point, but Japan gets to this point and their economy is overwhelmingly strong. And that's not the case. He does have good upgrades, but losing the Tsukuga Shrine, his economy it's still good, but it's not nearly as good as it could be. And as a result of that, we can see he's going to have difficulty just powering out units. We can see he's got 2 barracks down, doesn't even have a stable yet, doesn't have any Yumis in the mix. He's a long way off from getting a composition together that's going to be able to deal with the impending big, massive veteran skirmishers, Reuters, maybe even some Falconets that are sure to come. And should he fail to be able to win the game with this little timing push that he's put together here, I have to wonder whether or not he's not just going to lose this stuff here to some sort of skirmisher shipment and all in. We'll have to see. It looks like he's just going to go for the throat right here at this point.
Yeah, and he does go 1,000 wood on the floor. If he can stop that from going up, though, it's certainly going to make Bad Speed in a rather difficult position. He's rather counting on this shipment here. It could be something like 8 skirmishes, which right now would help him stabilize here. But the 1,000 wood, if that can be blocked, would be difficult for him. But by the looks of it, with the Minutemen being called and skirmishes doing damage from range and units all popping out at once, it might be tough to get that there.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, doesn't matter. These skirmishers, well, I guess they could have been controlled a little bit better, but look at how less threatening this looks, now with the vet skirmishers here.
Yeah.
Still the Minutemen doing some damage from the side. The pikes, sure, they've been, used and wasted, kind of just in a defensive manner, but...
The tank, yeah.
This is the point where, look at what remains. There's really not that much units left for Acergame. And this is the point, where he needs the overwhelmingly strong economy to carry him through. And without his Tsukuga Shrine, his economy is not overly strong and not overwhelmingly strong. He does have his stable down. He is continuing to mass produce AcerGar Musketeers, but this is the point where Dutch is going to start to do Dutch things in the mid game, and I don't know if Japan's going to be able to really keep up with him at this point.
Saving Grace, though, does still have a few units in there and is causing a few problems. There's not a huge amount of skirmishes left, but I suspect we'll see some units any moment now. What's he going to be doing with all this wood, though? Bad Speed has 800 wood in queue, which is a lot of that represents a lot of villager seconds. I suspect that's...
Yeah, it's just going to be used to probably create his 3rd bank, or his 4th bank, rather, make houses, and rebuild the barracks that he lost in the middle of the map.
There it is.
That's essentially what that wood is for, and it's just because Dutch doesn't want to have to gather
that much.
Doesn't want to have to gather
you
that
don't.
Much wood.
It's a very efficient shipment, right? 1,000 wood. If you can get away with sending that, you're in a good spot there. Sure, he'll certainly find a use for that at some point here, but has skirmishes in his base, forcing back AcerGame's Musketeers here, and I don't know. AcerGame at this point, he really needs to put something together quickly.
Yeah, and we can see he's just kind of falling apart at the seams. You can see he's trying to do the annoying Japan thing where you run around with Ashigaru that are quicker than your opponent and pick off villagers, but it's really not that scary. I mean,
Veteran Halberdiers coming out of that. That's an interesting unit. One you don't see too often there. Them sprinting away, they're pulling them with the rest of the units to get them away from the Musketeers, as they don't take too much damage. Quite a strong anti-cavalry unit, and it makes me wonder what he's using them for.
Well, at the very least, they have high siege damage as well. They can help control the shrine population that is starting to sprout up all over the map.
Yeah, that's probably what they are used for. They are quite strong in that regard. But...
yeah, I mean, this is the point where we can see Musket he's controlled the tempo. He's got the tempo back in his favor, and he's kind of stifled any sort of pressure that really was coming from AcerGame. We can see AcerGame has dumped all of his resources. I was wondering whether or not there was a chance that AcerGame would not spend his resources for a couple of cycles and try and save an age and get aged up and leverage some sort of, tech equality to get himself back in this game, but it looks like he's just going to dump his resources, and having done that now, it's starting to become just a little bit even more underwhelming, the amount of units he has out on the map. We can still see, batches of Ashies trying to work their way down here, and to some credit, he may be able to, find some units and do some damage, but This works so much better if you have a Tashuka Shrine on the map, is basically what it all comes down to.
He does find his opponent's villagers down here, though, but is met by a small mass of veteran Reuters. He does force the villagers away. They're going to have to go to a new coin mine, and he's, by the looks of it, going to be able to force the villagers off the food as well. And there are, of course, 2 barracks nearby. At the very least, Bad Speed is being slowed down. He's going to have to return home. But are these musketeers trapped? Are they going to be able to find their way home, or are they just going to get sort of sandwiched between these skirmishes and the Reuters and not really have anywhere to go?
Yeah, he's buying himself some time with this, but what is he buying time for? Like, he's not buying time to age. He's not buying time to get any tech advantage. He's not buying time to improve his economy. I just don't know what he's buying time for. It seems like with each one of these little fights, sure, he forces, some awkwardness for his opponent, but what's it really accomplishing at the end of the day? We can see that in terms of villager population, things are pretty stagnant. Nothing's really changed. In terms of military population, Bad Speed has been ahead, just in general, and continuing to power ahead with, the tech advantage of the veteran skirmishers. What is he buying time for? I mean, all he's really doing is just buying time. He is now aging, but is that going to be enough? Is it going to be too little, too late?
Perhaps it is too late at this point. Bad Speed is up with basically a fully fledged army. He's going to take out this last shrine by the looks of it, and next stop is most likely going to be sort of AcerGame's base, going to put the pressure on over there, whilst his sort of halberdiers, which actually have been cleaned up. Well, I was going to say they were going to clear up the rest of the shrines, but you really don't want to be aging as your opponent's coming for you. And at this point, if Bad Speed were to come for him, so to speak, I don't think AcerGame would be in the best of spots.
Yeah, and it looks like he is going to get aged up. We can see he's about 50% of the way up now. But at the same time, he's also had to slow down his tempo quite a bit. He's allowing, the pressure that was down here with those big batches of Ashigaru has basically been nullified. We can see that Bad Speed is able to freely gather down here, starting to establish a TP line. He has cleared off basically his half of the map of shrines. And, AcerGame needs to be careful. He definitely doesn't want to fight until he's aged up.
No, he certainly wants the upgrades, right?
Yeah.
And perhaps a shipment as well. He actually has 2 shipments available to him at this moment in time. That's quite a lot of shipments he's left unspent, but certainly they're going to be useful now that he's up to the fortress age. And if he can get them out, it should be okay. But that having been said, he has lost a lot of shrines, and his economy isn't going to be too good for all the reasons we mentioned already, and plus just basically no shrines anyway. Though we do have a fight here. It looks like the cavalry in a reasonable position there. The skirms walking away, not really doing any damage here, and I think actually AcerGame taking quite a good fight.
This is good for Japan. He kind of caught him on an awkward flank. Musket, as good as his control usually is, caught a little bit out of position there, is going to be able to deal with most of the Nagis pretty easily. But now we can see the Disciplined Ashigaru have been upgraded, and as a result of that, going to be able to power his way through. We can see a couple of them, ones up in melee, up front, keeping as many of the units trapped and snared as possible, and just kind of trying to deal as much damage as possible. He does also have the close combat shipment, which is going to improve the HP of his Ashigaru quite nicely as well. But I don't know if it's going to be quite enough. We can see, despite the fact that I think AcerGame got the best fight he really could have hoped for, he still just wasn't able to really power his way through. And he's got a lot of reinforcements coming through here, but
certainly those shipments stacking up, plus the units he's been training. But despite the favorability of that fight, it's not gone too. Look, Dutch has still got plenty of units here. With a composition that counters him. Skirmishers, have multipliers versus all the infantry, and the Reuters are certainly quite good against the Naganatas here.
Yeah, Cav coming in from the right, though, are going to be picked off for the most part by the Reuters. But this is the point where Ashies are just Ashies. I mean, they move very quick. They move very quickly, and they can just get on top of you. And this is the scary thing that Dutch has to deal with at all points of the game, and now it's kind of coming to fruition, where he can just power his way in there, get up in the face of the skirms, abuse the fact that they have that extra mobility, and just kind of hunt them down.
The extra speed is absolutely very useful here. Faster moving than skirmishers and other musketeers. Is musket suddenly AcerGame has swung back in his favor here. Musket, though, let's take a look at what he has in queue. We do see no units in queue at these barracks here. Does have an artillery foundry going up, and has Certainly some coin to make them with. What do you think of a couple cannons here? Is that what he needs?
I think he needed the cannons a little bit earlier. This is the point now where the Ashy raids, like this is the point right where look at these villagers, how exposed they are. They're just kind of hanging out there on that coin mine. Yeah. And if AcerGame is smart...
Oh, he does find them, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Acer's smart, he'll check how much coin is in there, and he'll realize that villagers have been gathering there, and they're probably still in the area. And this is the point. Just look at the sheer mass of Ashigaras just moving everywhere across the map. And this is why I just said this matchup doesn't scare me. Despite the fact that Bad Speed got the Teshuga so early, he was in a good spot economically, it still just is ending up looking like it's just not going to matter. I mean, look, oh my god, it's going to be a slaughter.
Yeah, there's so many villagers down here. He really can't lose those. He's already at a villager disadvantage here. He does have the shrines to make up for that, being Dutch there, but can't lose these villagers as well. It's going to be absolutely devastating. That's a huge amount of economic potential there, and the long game is suddenly so much more scary for him. Not only has he lost villagers, but really doesn't have access to a coin or food source at this point. He has to win this fight, really, and push back out for the control of the map. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to gather resources, and that's going to bring a quick end to MusketJr's first game.
Yeah.
But does have 2 cannons and a reasonable Reuter mass here. Is able to force AcerGame back, the Japanese player, and these villagers are going to be able to return to work.
Yeah, and his saving grace is that AcerGame, this whole time has been kind of forced to use all the resources on his half of the map. He knows exactly where AcerGame is gathering coin. He's got a wall segment right on top of 15 villagers gathering from a coin mine. He knows that if he can stop these Ashigara raids, he knows precisely where he needs to pressure. Unfortunately, I don't know that he's going to be able to stop these Ashi and just the heavy infantry from running amok all over his base here.
He does have 1,000 coin as his next shipment, and has just collected that up. That's gonna, that's 2.5 falconets. Actually, it is exactly 2.5. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot of falconets, and that coin is going to be translated directly into what he needs to deal with these infantry in the form of cannons. And certainly, that's going to be tough for AcerGame to deal with. What do you do to counter that? As Japan, certainly he is up to the next station and can start getting flaming arrows out, but those are going to take a while to train, and he doesn't really have the cavalry mass needed to deal with them at all. Could just try the brute force, run in there with your Ashigara musketeers and shoot them down, but that's not always the most effective strategy. But having looked at the lack of units really here, there's not very much protecting these cannons at all, and it looks like that strategy will be completely fine. And MusketJr realizes this, does end the game there. Bad Speed, aka MusketJr, is eliminated from this. Well, not yet.
From this first game.
From this first game. That's what I was going to say.
Pack it up, boys. Time to go home. No. I do just want to briefly touch on the fact that, as you mentioned, the cannons are really good at killing the infantry when they can just sit there and shoot. But AcerGame is to the point now where he's got enough Ashies on the map. The Falconets will never be able to just sit there and shoot. Their lack of mobility is going to cost them dearly in this particular situation. We can see, look at where they're at. They're in a very non-threatening position. Where they need to be and where they're threatening is, right up here, shooting at the Golden Pavilion, taking down the infrastructure, forcing the Ashies into small chokes to come up and fight them. That's where the Falconets are really scary, and why traditionally they're the strongest when they're used in timings and used to force some sort of tech advantage, not in the mid-ish or the later part of the mid-game where Japan's got a whole bunch of stuff just running around causing issues all over the map. The second he steps those cannons outside of the base, AcerGame just takes 30 Ashigaras down to the south side of the map where he knows he's gathering resources and forces the cannons to chase him around the map and just abuses the fact that Ashies have more speed and just basically run him ragged trying to keep
nullify
up.
The Falconets, but just by abusing their lack of speed, their pressure somewhere else whilst they're on top of your base. You can't be in 2 places at once, especially with Falconets. But that does conclude the first match. Dutch, the civilized. Oh no, MusketJr. There's certainly a strong player with Dutch from Nilla, but unfortunately,
his early game was good. To be perfectly fair, his early game was adequate, but Dutch just doesn't have the follow-up. Despite the fact that Japan's eco was hampered that much, losing your Teshuga Shrine, AcerGame's build order in the early game was honestly abysmal. 4 villagers into 600 wood. That's new meta right there. That's not traditionally something that you see, and he was still able to compensate for those facts and still win the game. I won't say relatively easily, because obviously, it was a 20-minute game where there was quite a bit of back and forth action, but it's not a game that he should have won, and he did win it. So interesting to see Dutch, though, and props to Badspeed for thinking that he would play Dutch and have a chance with it.
I know Dutch is the civilization he's comfortable with here, but not today. It's not the day for Dutch to flourish or to shine, or whatever word you want to use. But that does end the first game. Let's head on out to the next one and see what this series has in store. Currently, the score is 1-0 in AcerGame's favor.
Indeed. I'll even update my scoreboard. How about that?
Wow. That's some next level streaming professionalism right there.
Yes. Indeed. An updated scoreboard.
Monstrous. Next match looks like AcerGame has selected India for his match on Cascade Range. Of course, the map pool is different for every player, every set of players in the tournament. India has been selected. Badspeed switching from Dutch. He obviously can no longer play that, as he has already played it in the series now. To India. It looks like we're going to be heading into an India mirror here. We'll see what Badspeed has in mind for this. Certainly doesn't have some sort of obscured match like in the previous game where he selects Dutch into Japan with something special in mind. But going to go for the India mirror here on Cascade Range. And I think that's an excellent thing to do, mirror that civilization here.
Yeah, India seems to be the go-to civ on this map and most high-level players, and for obvious reasons, right? I mean, it's got some of the chokes that you can control with the aggro fort. It doesn't have any TPs, so civs like France and Germany do struggle a little bit on it. It's just really a map made for India. It's fairly low hunt, low resource, which also tends to favor India, and the fact that their villagers cost wood, it actually helps preserve some of the resources around the map a little bit as well. So India seems like the go-to civ for most people here, and looks like it's going to be an India mirror.
Absolutely, I agree there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to game number 2 in this best of 7 series. It is first 4 victories will progress to the next round, which is the finals. The score is currently 1-0 in AcerGame's favor. The map is Northwest. No, it's not. It's using the Northwest Territories picture set, but it's actually Cascade Range, a map made by our resident map maker, Gaia. India Mirror. Here we have, of course, Badspeed. Okay, so it's bugged map.
Oh, yeah, it is.
How do you pause it? They can't hear your comments, but...
F3.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll notice it, right? When the villagers move forward.
When they're like, oh yeah, hold on a moment. Yeah, this is gonna lag like crazy.
Yeah. It's funny that as a player, and I've been on that side of it as a player as well, right? Where you don't notice that the observers are bugged, and because you're just so busy trying to get your villagers to do the right thing. I remember I was playing one game, and it was an observer game, and I felt so proud of myself because I'm like, oh, this split was so easy. Everything was so fluid, and I got all my villagers going the right way. It seemed like the game was going at half speed. Zoot is back in business, baby. And then I realized that that in fact the game was moving at half speed. And
you're not a Time Lord slowing it down so you can get the pro elite skills splits. But it was actually going half speed.
It was a brief moment of glory, and then reality came crashing back to me. And
so, for those of you wondering what's going on here, we didn't spawn with tapirs, if that makes any sense to you at all. There's an invisible unit that puts us in the game so that we can watch the 1v1 that gets auto-deleted, but they didn't spawn, so we weren't ever in the game to begin with, and then the map bugged out. But I must admit, this of course, observer mode with this UI, it was made by a player named Azamk, and without him, Age of Empires 3 commentary would not be where it is today. and casting would not be where it is today at all. And big shout out to him, thanks for doing that. And actually, his maps spawn far more consistently than the old school ones, if you remember. Sometimes they just would not start, like they just wouldn't start the game. These have like almost a 99% start rate, unless it's, the map is bugged, like the actual game file. But they almost always start here, and we'll see if it doesn't. Oh no, we're not in a game. Oh, fair enough. There's me. Okay, I think it's this particular script of the map isn't it good?
It could be, yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Do you have a different version?
Yeah. Obviously, the Age of Empires 3 maps are coded in XML. Gaia wrote this map, I would imagine, then Azamp would have tagged on the Observer UI and all of the stuff that is needed for the Observer mode. But clearly this particular script is not working as intended, so we'll have to find the same map on a different script.
Check out the chat as well. We've got about 5 AcerGame09's games going on.
We need AcerGame01, 02, 03, etc. And then when I press game name, I want them to all order sort of alphabetically. If somebody can make that happen, AcerGame09 apostrophe S game 010 08. I want them all in order. That'd be wonderful.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if this starts. Hopefully this one should be good.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take pink then. Fine. All right, welcome back to attempt number 3, ladies and gentlemen, in this best of 7 series. Game number 2. The score is currently 1-0 in AC Games' favour. The map wasn't spawning properly. It should be spawning properly now. The observers were not being put in. Us, aka me and Zuta, were not being put into the game correctly. But hopefully that will be fixed. We do have an India mirror, though, on Cascade range. And this map, saving recorded game, where we're spawning here, this map strikes me at how beautiful Age of Empires 3 can look, with sort of the lake and sort of the white snow and the trees near the mountain before the grass becomes not snow. Anyway, enough of that. Anyway, for a game made in 2005, I think that's fairly
It's really beautiful, honestly. Yeah, it's really well done. The people who did the first iteration of this game put so much work into it. You can definitely tell.
Yeah, and it's fairly well optimized as well. There's very little lag, and that's definitely something compared to some games nowadays. Anyway, what is this? We do have an India mirror on Cascade range, a very desirable civ here for some of the reasons that Zura pointed out. Of course, there's some very nice choke points. You can lay down an agrifort sort of in the middle of the map, sort of over here, and these trading posts will basically block off, and you've got your agrifort in the middle. You can basically block the entire map. The only way to the other side is through the corners near the ponds, really. And Zuta also mentioned that, the fact that your villagers cost wood is very relevant here. You can preserve a lot of resources. And on a map like this, that's very relevant because all of the mines are tin mines. They're not silver mines, they're not gold mines, they are tin mines. They have far less coin in them, only 1,500 each. And there are not particularly many deer patches. Certainly there's a lot of food in terms of berries, but those are very undesirable. And the fact that your villagers cost wood makes India an excellent prime choice for this map. We'll have to see what the players have in mind. But India Mirror, and both players so far have built their house. Doesn't look like we're seeing any markets here. Perhaps some aggressive starts.
Yeah. This will be an interesting matchup. I watched this matchup between Kiljardi and Goon, and Kiljardi won with basically standard Age 2 play, and Goon trying to do some sort of tech-based play. And I mentioned it because it's a similar situation to this map. They were playing on what's the map with like the big cliff that runs down the middle? Baja, California.
Yeah, Gaia, California.
Yeah, and it's very similar in some ways that, there's basically like 3 choke points. Like on this map, there's 3 choke points as well, right? So I think it's reasonable to expect that we'll see agriforts kind of covering this region. We can already see that Acer Games got a villager moving out here to the middle.
Yep, and there's the foundation going down right about now.
Yeah. And I think similarly, we'll see probably the Agrifort go down for bad speed in a similar location. Actually, important to note, look at how smartly Acer Game is standing with his elephant here, looking to block a potential placement of that fort. That's a really smart thing for him to do. Could slow down his opponent, but either way, I think we'll see Agrofort's kind of mirrored here in the middle, which is going to kind of just block off the middle part of the map. And in that way, you have to start using these longer avenues of attack, which make tech-based play a little bit stronger, just because of the fact that you have to go around these long bends, as it were. And so I'm curious to see how much tech the players choose to go for here. And like I said, in the Kiljardi versus Gungun game, the player who decided to not go tech and just went with the more standard timing-based play ended up winning. So
we'll see what happens, but looks like here AcerGame. Sorry, says, I think. Oh, he pressed pause by mistake. I would imagine, and that's why he's apologizing. But is definitely heading up to the next age very quickly. Currently almost 70% aged, and Bad Speed significantly further behind him. And with forward Agrifort from AcerGame and sort of the Elephant trying to block the Wonder, doing everything in his power, it looks like he has some sort of aggressive or more aggressive build in mind than his opponent Bad Speed here, who is playing with a defensive Agrifort. I'll have to see what he has in mind there. Both shipments are the same for each player, of course, the distributivism. And Bad Speed has managed to, squeeze in a few extra villages. AcerGame's gone up a bit sooner. I believe actually Bad Speed is 2 villages ahead once his next one trains.
This is something that I've seen Nagayumi do when he plays India. He does like kind of this pseudo aggression play where he basically trains 14 villagers. I mean, you do have some downtime, but it's not quite all as economically all in as like just straight up 10-10ing. But it does get you aged up significantly quicker. Allows you to ship a military shipment earlier, or if you want to ship an eco shipment as well. It just gets you that next shipment a little bit earlier. Allows you to start getting your second tier market upgrades a little bit earlier. At the trade off of you have like 1 or 2 less villagers. So let's see what AcerGame actually decides to go with. I mean, he's going to spot out the Agrifort. He's going to know that he probably can't play much aggression into this, and I think we'll still just see him do 600 wood. But it is interesting to see that he did go with that kind of 14 vil in between age up timing in a mirror. Generally, when I saw Nagayumi do it the first time he was playing against the Ottoman civilization, which makes sense, you want to get aged up a little quicker against Otto so you can start formulating your response. But in the mirror, we can see 600 wood still coming through. Just going to continue to play it economically, and for what it's worth, Bad Speed being about a villager ahead as a result of that.
Look at this. We see a deviation in the build order. Bad Speed may have been thrown off by this sort of forward Agrifort there. Has sent 5 Sepoy, which is a fairly defensive shipment at this point. They're only really useful if you're going to use them for a timing. They just arrive as you're going to be pushing out, or if you need them to be there to help you defend. These are not 600 wood. They're not resources that are going to be able to be spent on improvements or anything sort of beneficial in the longer term here. And I think AcerGame's forward aggression, or what looked like it was going to be a more aggressive, may have influenced Bad Speed's choice of shipments here, and that in itself is a big win for AcerGame in the sense that he has now a sort of a shipment ahead, sort of, if you see what I mean. Certainly 5 Sepoy is still going to be useful. They're not going to, it's not just irrelevant, but definitely in AcerGame's favor here. There was also something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was, so never mind.
One thing I want to point out that's particularly important as well is the timing of the market upgrades as a result. No 600 wood coming for Bad Speed, which means his market upgrades are significantly slower. He does not even have a consulate yet. Look at AcerGame. He's already got a consulate. He's already researched the Ottoman ally and is going to be able to send those villagers. His eco is going to pull ahead very, very early. And I think this is an artifact, just as you mentioned, of the more forward, aggressive-looking Agrifort that Bad Speed has played in this style. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be able to be successful, because we can see right now he's got significantly more units and is mounting a bit of pressure here to the front side of AcerGame's base. But now with the Ottoman allies already completed, he's going to be able to send the Minutemen if he needs, has a couple Gurkha here in the mix, and with the Agrifort adding in DPS, I don't think he's really under any real threat of dying.
Yeah, no, but I think Bad Speed has identified that there was no pressure, and with the Musketeers that he sent, he chose just to mount an aggression, just to make them more effective, make it a more valid shipment choice, and then follows up with 4 Sours as well. This is a fairly aggressive playstyle out of Bad Speed. And I think it's playing into exactly what AcerGames wants.
Yeah, and we can see the European Minutemen coming from the Ottoman consulate going to be able to help this. 5 Sepoy popping out as well. And this is now all of a sudden, Red is caught in a bad spot. He's caught between a rock and a hard place, and he's a bit all in here with his shipments, and plus he's just fighting underneath the Agrifort, which is just splashing down all this damage.
25 Area 3 is definitely relevant there. He is now, by the looks of it, going to count away here with his Gurkha. Those cucumbers going to do a bit of damage to those Minutemen as he sort of retreats away here. But as you mentioned, is a bit all in. 5 Sepoy and 4 Sours definitely not going to help him in the long run compared to his opponent's 600 wood. But the saving grace there is AcerGame did send 5 Sepoy defensively by the looks of it. He did see, of course, well, perhaps it was a defensive ship. The point is it's also a military shipment there, so things aren't perhaps as lopsided as...
Sure, and it is important to mention that because it's not something like 300 exports, so the Ottoman villagers are not going to be popping out, like right now like they could be. It's going to be significantly slower. He did spend a bunch of his export just on getting those European Minutemen, so despite the fact that he does have the Ottoman consulate, he actually hasn't got the economic payoff from it just yet. We can see now the 300 export coming now is going to be able to ship those villagers, and so now he's going to be able to catch up. But during all of that, Badspeed has been a little bit more consistent with his villager production as well. We can see 29 versus 27, and maybe just an artifact of that early game
I think so
as
too.
well. But it's not like things have gone all bad for Badspeed. He's slightly behind. If we take a look at market upgrades, he's still slightly behind. Doesn't have his Imperial Bureaucracy importantly finished, nor does he have Flume and Ditching researched. But in all other regards, he's fairly even. And he's got a significantly stronger, scarier military presence here. Now without the European Minutemen available for this next shipment, this could potentially be a little bit more difficult of a push to hold for AcerGame.
4 Hussars, is that the one you were pointing out? I suppose it was. Just a lot of tension in the area.
There's so much tension, but at the same time, right? This is the strength of the Agrifort in a choke point, and this is exactly why AcerGame elected to do the build that he did. We can see how much difficulty Badspeed is actually having in just approaching the Agrifort. Despite the fact that he's got a better military, if the units were to just fight in an open field, he probably would win a fight. But there's just no opening him for him to force a fight.
Definitely not going to let him there. And this, gives you a lot of pseudo mobility in a sense. They can't come through the middle, which is the most direct route, the easiest route to get somewhere. And if your opponent then comes to the side, you can always have your units positioned sort of behind the Agrifort, and they can easily respond to where the opponent is coming to or coming from. And there is that.
Yep. And now with AcerGame continuing to pull ahead, he's gotten his payoff from the Otto consulate. He's gotten his 4 settlers. We can see he's ending his relations. And when he travels over to the Brit consulate land, he's going to have that extra 5% HP on his units. Or is it? It's 10% in this patch, isn't it? Yeah. It's 10%. That was a fan patch change, which is why my mind immediately jumped to that number. But it's 10% in this patch, which is a huge bonus. And at that point, just having 10% more HP, 10% more units effectively is going to be a time where he can push out and potentially do some real damage. We can see that alliance is currently researching, and I expect him to want to push out when that finishes. We'll see if he does it immediately.
Yeah, using that 600 coin as well to... Oh, having said that, though, let's take a look at AcerGame's resource pile here. Perhaps an age up is what he has in mind here. Not going to be pushing out, despite having the British here. Perhaps is going to try and sneak the age up in, and if he can get up to the next stage and have him find himself with access to those stronger military shipments and just shipments generally, and of course the upgrades that are available there, he's going to be pretty happy. That is exactly what he chooses to do here, and I think Badspeed needs to identify this so he can either choose to match it and go up himself, or perhaps instead mount a pressure whilst AcerGame is vulnerable, having just spent 2,200 resources on not making military units. This is sort of a critical point in the game where Badspeed needs to identify what's going on.
Yep.
Otherwise, AcerGame's going to find himself in a good spot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the point, right, where the map control has really paid off for AcerGame. He has effectively hid from his opponent what he's doing. We can see he's starting to wall up here. He's got some wall segments going here on both the left and right side, continuing to control those chokes. And despite the fact that, look at Bad Speed's military presence, he's got significantly more military. He's been consistently ahead 10, 15 pop this whole time, but he's not able to leverage that because AcerGame's really got more control of the middle portion of the map and just is kind of avoiding the fight, taking the tech route, electing to go to the third age.
Yeah.
And now, you know, Bad Speed is, as you mentioned, he's in a tough spot. He's spent all of his resources. He's not going to be able to match this age when he sees...
Wow, look how effective that wall is as well. Yeah. It's not even... It's buying him so much more time. Like, even now he's now pushing out, which is the right thing to do against the opponent who's aged up. It's too late, and this wall makes it even more too late. And I think AcerGame is happily going to get up, find himself with those nice upgrades, and be in a good spot. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
And this is the point, right? This is the point where it flashes on Musket's screen that says your opponent has gotten to the third age. And you look at your resources, and you're like, nope, I can't match that right now. I am in no position to age myself. And so he has to operate underneath the principle that he does have a better military mass, and he has to force a fight before upgrades come through. Because if disciplined upgrades come through, you know, any sort of your army or any scary unit shipment comes out, that's just going to be lights out. And it looks like Tiger Claws are here, and he's going to force the issue. He's going to try and look for a fight before these upgrades can finish.
I think so. And is he getting back because he sees the Tiger Claws? He did cast the Inspiration ability, and I feel as if that's going to help match the fact that his opponent has more units a little better, sort of that tech... Well, I suppose it is a tech advantage. But I feel it's a little bit too late. Musket needed to push out earlier, or certainly would have been stronger to push out earlier. But this is now go time for him. Now he identifies what AcerGame is doing. Now it's been spelled out to him on the screen here. Agrafort is going to go down. I don't know if there's any units in queue there, but that could be very relevant if a batch of units is not going to be trained. And certainly the shipments are not going to be able to arrive in the fight as well. Looks like Bad Speed does take the Agrafort down, and now AcerGame is on the retreat. There's that. 3 Malholts do arrive. Wow, here we go.
Is that going to be enough, though? I mean, there's still a decent amount of anti-cav here with the Sepoy. They can get into melee range and deal with those fairly effectively. If nothing else, he's just keeping his Gurkhas a little bit safer. He also did finish the Discipline Gurkha upgrade as well, which is going to be the more important thing. And despite the fact that he's losing these elephants now with the upgrades for his Gurkhas powering through, being in the next age, just all this fighting in general is going to give him more XP, more shipments, and I think he'll be able to stabilize. It's still in a bit of a tenuous position, but I think he should have enough time to stabilize here. He'll have another shipment available fairly soon, or probably sending even. And, you know, something like 8 Gurkhas will help bail him out significantly here at this point.
It's definitely true. It's also worth pointing out that Bad Speed does have a superior economy behind this as well. He's somehow managed to find himself 10 villagers up, you know, picking off the odd villager here and there, and certainly maybe has had better macro through the course of this game in terms of settler production. That means, you know, despite AcerGame being up to the next age and having access to now Discipline Gurkha and the extra military shipments as you see here, I think the extra eco potential from Bad Speed might just be able to power him through that sort of tech advantage that he has, and just, you know, keep him on the same sort of power level, so to speak. 2 Malholts do pop out. They're definitely very strong versus the Gurkha there, but 3 Gardner Hussars going to come in and sort of force them away.
Yeah. Kind of trapped in a bit of an awkward spot. The Zams are going to be able to clean up those Gardeners. Still looking for a position to get those Mahuits, and they've soaked a lot of damage, if nothing else.
From now, Gurkhas, which is the best thing they could have soaked from. They are down now, but
yeah, look at Acer's just army like remaining, and this is the point where now it's like, okay, he's about even an army, but we have to remember that the Discipline Gurkha upgrade is in play for one player, not for the other.
And that's 20% hit points in attack, and that basically, if you just imagine that being 20% bigger, what do we see?
I also want to point out that AcerGame randomly got up a town center, and look at where Musket's gathering coin. As you mentioned very early in this game, these are tin mines, and as a result of these being tin mines, look at how much coin is remaining. There's very little coin remaining on this map, and AcerGame, because he did get that wall up very early, and now has established this town center, In fact, he could just call Minutemen, here. He's got these villagers boxed in. They're behind a wall and sandwiched in by a town center. There's effectively no retreat path.
It was 1 whole minute. All right. I'm sure we can...
Sure.
I think he's busy. Yeah. I think also, is it since of course the town center, interesting fact here, trivia, has a ×2 damage multiplier versus villagers. I believe that is the case before Age of Empire. They chose to put that in because they didn't want people running villagers into your base to gather up your crates. But to be fair, AZAMP still gets away with that a lot of the time. But the town center certainly makes that strategy less effective here. But when you're gathering this close to a town center, you could just garrison 10 villagers or perhaps less than that. Enough villagers just to one-shot a villager, and certainly about 7 in there with one bang a villager there. They don't have any ranged resist. But as you mentioned, Minutemen would be effective. Wait, can he still call those from? He's already called them once, isn't he?
No, but you can call them from each.
Oh,
town
the
center,
centuries,
right?
of course, yeah.
Well, you can call from each town center.
Oh, okay.
He's only got 1 villager in there, but as you mentioned, like with that 2x multiplier, that 9 damage all of a sudden becomes 18, and he look at the damage he's already put down on that 1 villager. I mean, that can't go unchecked. If that goes unchecked, those villagers will eventually just die, right? I mean, they are taking 18 damage every 3 seconds or whatever the rate of fire of the town center is. And
wait, hold on. We can't pause for that long because the stream will catch up, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like...
to be fair, I don't think that's a huge...
It's not his... I mean, it would be one thing if you were in a very critical timing portion. Musket knows full well what's going on. He knows his...
I don't think it's relevant,
I mean, it's fairly irrelevant at this point. I mean, both players know the situation at hand. Both players know that AcerGame is likely behind in economy, but significantly far ahead in tech advantage. And as a result... this is kind of like Musket needing to control the map. And look at over here.
All these coin mines are behind walls.
Yeah, Musket is behind enemy lines, so to speak. It looks like he's going to try and secure this one over here on the right-hand side.
Where is his coin? Where can he gather coin from? This is...
Yeah, he's going to have to start...
That's a pretty good raid.
That's a huge raid. But as you mentioned, he might just run into a situation fairly soon where he just cannot train in units because he doesn't have any access to coin. Look at his coin total. In fact, look at both players' coin totals, sitting dangerously low right
dangerously low. What sort of trash units do you have available as India?
You make Raj, but I guess.
Oh dear. Oh, wow, okay. But right now, Badsby does have the superior military in terms of size. 64 military population there compared to his opponents at 49 here. Badsby is the player who should be able to control the coin mines better than his opponent. But having said that, there is a town center up and a wall on this coin mine, which is half full. There's a reasonable quantity of coin, and there is there's only a small amount of coin behind there. But I think, whilst AcerGame has access to a few coin mines, Badsby's going to be able to control them fairly well. And if that is the case, maybe he can stop his opponent from gathering coin and stop him dead in his tracks there. This is going to be a very, very,
no.
Yeah.
Not the how does. That was going to be so important for him to be able to do. He doesn't really have much anti-cav, which was the next point I was going to bring up. He's only got 7 Zams as his anti-cav, and now with these 2 stables operating up here, in addition to securing the coin mine, they're providing quite a big Sawar threat. And this is going to be a really hard army for AcerGame to kill still. I mean, he does have 2 Mahouts, which are very good, and he's got the disciplined upgrades for his Gurkha, but... At the same time, oh no, these villagers.
That's a big raid. Look at his villager count is pulling ahead so quickly. MusketJr is going to be fairly happy about that. Look at these 20 villagers up. Just the longer this game goes on, he's just going to be acquiring sort of bigger armies, more resources, and just going to be able to sort of outmass his opponent here. And this fight looks honestly fairly lopsided. As you mentioned, there really is no anti-cavalry. The Mahouts go down, and they're just 5 Sepoy, I think, here.
Yeah, and all the Gurkhas all the Gurkha are forced to be up in hand mode with all these Zams up here. And this is looking really
2 Howders do come out though, but I do think that it's a little bit too late. Certainly very strong against cavalry, but at this point they're not going to be able to save the cucumbers because they have already died. that pause button is
It's such an awkward key to hit too. At least on my key, unless he's got to like map to something else. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of the coin mine distribution in this game? It feels as if Bad Speed just had less coin on his side of the map, though. Having said that, there were these two fairly even coin mines in the middle, sort of that were behind walls. Was that sort of just Acer identifies where the coin mines are and places walls near them because
it was just
to do that?
It was an artifact of the fact that Acer was playing more aggressively the entirety of the game, right? He had his aggro fort. Well, no, he had his aggro fort up further, and as a result, like you mentioned, like he got. So this coin mine, this is on Musket's half of the map, right? It was just happened to be behind a wall that AcerGame built, so it's not like it was unfairly distributed on the map.
And that was what I was gonna.
Yeah. It was just that AcerGame had more map control earlier in the game, and as a result was able to control more coin mines early and preserve some of the back coin mines for later in the game. But I don't think it's going to matter here. I think Musket's found his way to a victory, and it looks like AcerGame calls GG.
There it is, GG. Game number 2 does go to Bad Speed. The score is currently 1-1 in this best of 7 series for the semi-finals. The winner of the series will, of course, go to the grand finals, and the loser will be eliminated. This is shaping up to be a fairly interesting series. That first game, some interesting civilizations in this game at the equalizer. I think we're in for a good one here.
Yeah, it definitely. I still go back to like just wondering why he wanted to play Dutch.
To play Dutch. Yeah.
But I don't know. That's still a mystery to me.
What else is good? Like, the only reason there that he would play Dutch, right, is perhaps you want to preserve your own Japan, so you don't have to play a Japan mirror, or
he could have played like French though, right? We saw.
But is he preserving French as well?
But I mean, I anticipate that when he does choose French, AcerGame will mirror, because French mirror is something that AcerGame is definitely well versed in, and so I fully expect. I fully expect there to be a French mirror at some point in one of these first 4 games, and I don't know, maybe Bad Speed, if he would have taken French, could have just forced the French mirror right away early, and then just not had to deal with Japan. I don't know. It's just curious.
Perhaps something will come up and explain better, but it is curious. Well, maybe just Musket thinks, I'm good with Japan. I think I'm reasonable. This matchup isn't hugely played, and maybe he feels as if Dutch just was okay against Japan in that matchup. I don't know. It's interesting. But this game, this particular one, the India Mirror, does go to MusketJr. and is the equalizer there. Let's head on out to the next one.
Yep. And to be fair, he did get the Teshuga Shrine down and forced an awkward reaction from AcerGame, which was perhaps just what he was trying to do, right? Yeah. He didn't need to win. He was very close to winning the game, and if those two civs were a little bit closer in power, he forced an awkward reaction, which was what he was hoping to do. Unfortunately, Japan still just rolls Dutch once they get to the third age. Is what it comes down to. But the next map is Tibet, which is a fun map, an interesting map. And Bad Speed has selected China already, and I think we'll see a China mirror. I mean, we've seen basically, I think every time I've casted this map in this tournament, it's been a China mirror.
Pretty much, yeah. There was this one game I saw when I casted with MusketJr. himself. That we saw Spain versus. Actually, I think that's what Musket did. Spain versus something, and he won as Spain. Yeah. Was that with you?
It was you and I. It was Musket versus Michael
Rondon.
Ron, our boy Ron.
Ron, yeah. To be fair, though, that matchup wasn't quite as high profile as this one, and perhaps gave Bad Speed the opportunity to play a civilization like Spain confidently in the sense. But here, China Mirror does look quite likely. Well, it seems quite likely when both players selected, so there is certainly that, yeah.
Yep. 100% of the time, all the time.
But there is still the potential to change civilizations here. Neither player has clicked in, but I do anticipate that this is the matchup that we will be seeing. I've said it time and time again, this one is interesting in the sense that there are a lot of units to control, because of course you're going to have a lot of units in the Fortress Age. You're going to have a lot of different types of units, and ultimately this is sort of how well can you control your army, and how well can you deal with controlling different types of units and using them optimally. This is a very perhaps mechanical, sheerly sort of army. What am I trying to say? How good you are at using your army, controlling your units, because both players will be doing very, very similar builds, if not the same one. And honestly, there's not a huge amount of potential to sort of be a strategist here.
Usually these games are very, very short and one-sided because both players make about the same stuff, and sometimes one player has slightly more stuff, and then whoever gets like their 5 meteor hammers in the optimal spot just pretty much smashes through. And then because when you win a fight with China, you get so many shipments and you have so many reinforcing shipments that just come pouring in after that. Yeah. That player's usually able to snowball that into a pretty quick victory. So generally when we see China mirrors, we see like 13-minute games where one player gets ahead and then just stays ahead. And
also there's the artifact of fighting a battle that you have more units in. You will win the fight, obviously, just on an objective way. And then there's this sort of exponential sort of thing as you have more units than them, as you're winning more and more, you win more and more, and there's that to consider as well. But there is certainly potential to see a longer game here. Both players are very skilled, have made it to the semi-finals, and I anticipate that each has the potential to take this to a longer China mirror. We'll see if it happens. I'd love to see this particular matchup go into the late game. Looks like
no replay.
I think the issue here is they're not selecting the UI version of the maps.
No, there is no replay.
Oh,
no recorded game. Oh, we got Acer. We got Acer 00's game. AcerGame09.
If you press game name and order them by name, there is a small attempt, but it's not working out. They still need number. They're still lacking 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, they just have AcerGame1 and 0 by the looks of it.
Keep trying, community. You're getting there.
Yeah.
You're getting very close.
See if they can learn to count by the next game.
It's like one of those threads where it's like, how high can we count? And then
God.
It's like 1, 2, 6. Up, start over. 1, 2, and then some troll comes in. -4.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 3 in this best of 7 series. The score is currently 1-1. This is the semi-finals, and the following round is the finals. The winner will progress, the loser will be eliminated. We do have a China mirror here on Tibet, a brand new map made by our resident map maker Gaia, and the UI, this lovely UI we're using, of course, tagged on by AcerGame09. Saving a recorded game, spawning in the south of the map in the color blue, we do have China. Well, actually, they're both China, so never mind. We have AcerGame spawning with 3 wood, and so each player will only have to collect 100 for their extra village, which no doubt they will want to build in order to maximize the efficiency of northern refugees, which gives you an extra villager for each village and town center. Though, having said that, AcerGame does have a 50 wood treasure nearby. Are there any other treasures perhaps nearby that will be useful? Yes, there is. There is a 75 food treasure. Bad Speed gonna go for that right away, and it looks like AcerGame has gone to the same spot of the map. Both players have gone to the same sort of side, and there is going to be a treasure contention here. 75 food will allow you to age up a little bit quicker, and it looks like AcerGame does go in there and cheekily picks that up whilst Bad Speed did all the hard work. He does have his disciple nearby, so despite losing the treasure, is going to be able to get a bit of extra damage on AcerGame's Explorer, but I don't think it's going to be hugely relevant. He's not too far away from his town center. He's going to go back, the villagers can go in, and of course the damage from there will force Bad Speed away. But extra damage on the, of course, Changa Kranda guy, that's the name of the Explorer, that will be perhaps a bit relevant in the next stage, and certainly does reduce perhaps the treasure collecting potential there. But 75 food is truly excellent. We can't see it in their food piles just yet. That's, of course, because they're making villages out of it, but it does mean AcerGame will be able to age up a little bit sooner, get that 700 coin out sooner, and ultimately be up to the next age sooner and have his military shipments coming out sooner. And, of course, having that a little bit sooner in a fight, as we kind of alluded to in the beginning, can be very, very relevant in this matchup.
Yeah. I was wondering whether or not AcerGame was going to do something. Well, I'm still wondering what he's doing. Okay, there he puts down his village. He didn't gather wood initially, and then he just sprinted right past that wood treasure in his base. Now, hindsight is 20/20. Obviously, he knew he would have time to go back, explore a little bit, was able to pick up a treasure that his opponent was gathering, and then still circle back and make it before he needed to send his northern refugees. Going to be perfectly fine. But I was wondering for a moment whether or not whether he was going to do something like tricky, maybe some sort of like pike rush or something like that, you know, something completely wild and different. But
we did see it out of Maito with the natives on Manchuria. It didn't go too well for him, but that was the first time he'd done the build. But actually, yeah, as you're saying, that is not the case, and we do see 2 villages.
And AcerGame picking up another wood treasure. He's already up to 110 wood. I'm very curious how he's going to spend that. Whether or not he's going to get a trading post with all this extra wood, or maybe just throw it on a market and transition, something like that. We'll have to see. And also, one other thing I wanted to bring up. By the way, these are the kinds of things I think about while you're like explaining the early game stuff.
Yeah.
Is why does China always get 300 wood? I mean, they make a house just like every other civ. And why, as a Japan player, can I not get 300 wood every single time? Why do I have to deal with that?
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
I would love that. But why do I, like, it's just not fair. Why does China get 300 wood 100% of the time, and me, the poor little Japan player, like, I only get it 33% of the time? And I swear every single time I play Auto or Eero, it's guaranteed 100% that I get the coin crates.
Don't have it.
You do not have it. Nope. Not allowed. You do not get 300 wood. But
ladies and gentlemen, confirmed here today, life is not fair on the Age of Empires stream.
It's not.
You've been informed.
It's just not. I mean, I get the idea is that so you can, but then why not just give them 400 so that they just don't have to gather any wood? I don't know. Like,
well, and give them less of other resources.
Yeah, give them like less food or something like that, so that they can always build 2 villages. Because I mean, probably the reason they did it, right? So you can send northern refugees and have a 3 villager card like every other civ in the game, or most other civs in the game. But then why not just give them 400? Why, like,
perhaps that opens up some really aggressive, like a trading. Well, you could still, and perhaps it opens up, like, if you have 400 wood, maybe you can do something in the next stage very aggressively with all the extra wood, free barracks, something like that. I don't know. It is the way that it is, but it is curious. I will give you that. Certainly interesting. But by the looks of it, AcerGame is a tiny bit ahead. By the looks of it, 20%. We'll have to see when he gets up and how much further he will be than his opponent. But ultimately, it's certainly going to be up to the next stage faster. It's to the fortress stage, that is.
And importantly, he's using the Porcelain Tower to get to the second age, whereas Musket is using the Summer Palace. The Summer Palace, of course, gives you that 400 extra food, which is really, really strong for catapulting you into the third third age, whereas the Porcelain Tower just gives you that trickle.
Wow,
and I saw AcerGame do this in the previous matchup as well. Who is he playing? I don't even recall. Kinesi, yes. Kinesi. He did this against Kinesi as well, where he opted for the Porcelain Tower in the second age. Now, the Porcelain Tower does scale with age, so it's a weaker version of its third age version if you were to build it going to the third age, or the fourth age for that matter. It gets significantly stronger, generates more resources. But I noticed that he did this against Kinesi as well. He aged with the Porcelain Tower to the second age, and then used the Confucian Academy to still get the extra arquebusiers and the extra tempo going to the third age. Now, this is kind of a new thing that people have just been more recently messing around with. And I'm curious to see how it plays off in the mirror, because when he did it against Kinesi, he was playing against Brits, and it was China versus Brits, and he did the Porcelain Tower, and it ended up working out for him. He ended up winning the match. But in the China mirror, I'm curious to see Musket doing the more traditional, looks like Porcelain Tower, the new meta Porcelain Tower to age 3 build, and we'll have to see how that ends up affecting him.
Yeah, certainly without the minus 400 food that he's otherwise could have had, the opportunity cost there is going to slow him down in terms of aging, but by how much? That is the question. Perhaps it's not that much, and perhaps the extra resources... I don't know. Well,
he's already aging up, and partially due to the fact that he had some insane treasures early in the game. That definitely helps him.
Absolutely.
But we have to remember the Porcelain Tower, can be tasked to gather 3 food per second early in the second age as well. So he can make up some of the economic discrepancy from those 400 crates as well.
Yeah. Also worth noting that Bad Speed elected to lay down a trading post during after he reached Colonial and during transition to Fortress somewhat, whereas AcerGame has not done that, and certainly that trading post could slow Musket down just a little bit as well. But Acer definitely going to be hitting up sooner. Has gone with the Curious Porcelain Tower.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this ends up paying off because, of course, the porcelain tower is really good in Age 3 because of how many resources it gives, but it still gives you some resources, not near quite as many, but you have it working for longer, and then you still get the benefits of having the Confucian Academy. You still get the flying crows every 5 minutes. You still get the 8 extra arquebusiers, the extra skirmishers for that very early timing. And I think it might be something that actually ends up being pretty good. We can see he's kind of secured himself a tempo advantage, has a forward villager, forward village, forward war academy. And now with this extra military tempo that I think he's going to get, first military shipment going to come out here very early for AcerGame and might be able to put on some serious hurt.
Pressure. Yeah. With that forward village there, that's where it's going to arrive at. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You get this, resource generating building plus the extra military units, and you usually have to choose one or the other, since I think that's the case. Anyway, here we do see. Wow, that's quite the push.
Yeah,
5 meteor hammers coming out.
Important to note very quickly that AcerGame did not send 700 wood, so this is a bit all in, but it's being very effective right now.
Yeah, wow, he didn't. So I didn't notice that. So yeah, 700 wood. He's going to have less infrastructure here in terms of villages. He's getting quite close, dangerously close to his population limit, but hopefully some of these units will die, in this pressure before he has any need to build new buildings. With perhaps he's gonna have to gather extra with his villagers at a later point, and that's gonna be rather awkward. But right now is gonna take out that forward war academy there. That's gonna be crippling for Badspeed, and also he's lost his explorer and the 2 disciples that were trained at it. As well, and now moving on to these villages here. Badspeed has nothing to stop this since he lost his war academy. There's going to be very few units aside from shipments really to defend this, and if the villages go down as well, this is just going to snowball harder and harder for AcerGame. In a very good spot right now.
He's in a really good spot, and we can see what he's cut. He's cut a lot of the. He hasn't built a market. He's cut all the upgrades that would maybe potentially come from that. He's cut the 700 wood, and he's just getting out as many units as possible. And he still has his porcelain tower working away, gathering wood for him in the background to be able to provide the important population space that he needs for these shipments. No consulate, no 700 wood, no upgrades to speak of. But look at the tempo he's gained from this build.
Yeah, this is this the Piroshiki China FF?
It could be, or it could be at least a good counter build to the current meta, more eco timing focused Chinese build. Look at the military advantage. I don't know what Badspeed can really do to recover from this.
I think that's game right. He's lost just losing the war academy was awful, crippling, and then the 2 villages as well before you can mount any sort of defense. Has just managed to get some units out, but at this point.
He doesn't have the population to send his next shipment, whatever it's going to be. And look at AcerGame, 11 Changdao, more siege potential, more units, just continuing to plow ahead in terms of raw military power.
And I think your comment about this countering this new meta is very relevant. People perhaps being a bit greedy now with this porcelain tower, and because of that, you don't have those extra units that you otherwise would normally, and this just walks all over it. That's clearly what's happened here.
Yeah.
So if he perhaps built those villages and the war academy further back could have been useful, but equally having them on the front isn't bad either, since it gives you a nice position to have your units behind near your town center and causes just have buildings obstructing your opponent from getting right to you. But in this particular game, it does have them on the front and loses them because of that.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to point out is there is still no consulate for AcerGame, meaning he doesn't have the British allies. He doesn't have the ability to send intervention, which is a very strong card. We can see Musket has just sent intervention. He will soon ally his consulate with the Brits, and he will get those 9 muskets, which are very, very problematic to deal with. And we'll see if just the strength of that shipment alone is enough to kind of even things out, and whether or not AcerGame retreats back, builds a consulate, and waits for his own intervention shipment before continuing to push forward here.
Yeah, 210 hit points, 29 ranged attack. They're not veteran, they're not guard, they're somewhere in between, but you get 9 of them. No, it's a very independently strong shipment here. Flying Crow is arriving.
And that's the important thing we have to remember. When you think about what, in particular, the porcelain tower build cuts, it does not give you that extra piece of artillery that comes every 5 minutes. And we can see with Acer Games build, still gets that, does have his consulate up now, has trained that first batch of redcoats. I think we'll see him time and push with Intervention and this Flying Crow, if not sooner. Maybe he just does it right now. Likely, though, I think going to wait for one more shipment to come. I think it'll hopefully be Intervention. And then I think he's just got a chance to have an overwhelmingly large military advantage. Look at the military advantage
74 to 4. It's almost double.
Yeah, and there it comes, Intervention just in time. And now it is double.
He's just going to go dumpster him. There's no question about it. MusketJr. has no response to this.
It's going to be very, very difficult. There has to be some sort of miracle play with Minutemen and like a Changdao shipment or something popping up, but he's going to lose for sure both of his wonders. He's so far behind in terms of just sheer military presence on the map. And it all comes from the early tempo that AcerGame got ahead early and has not let up that pressure. He's just continued to leverage it. In fact, even adding in a couple disciples. 89 versus 40 military population.
Yeah, I think though, normally it wouldn't be that one-sided if you were able to perhaps more adequately defend your war hut and your 2 villages, which Bad Speed perhaps wasn't expecting something so tempo-focused here, so immediate. Manchu do pop out. That is a power spike. It is definitely a very strong shipment there, and it's going to even up this fight. Worth pointing out that Bad Speed's score is not going to be as high as it should, since actually Manchu don't give you that. Well, mercenaries don't generally, but what are we looking at here?
Yeah, it's just a big. This is the general just big cluster, but I think there's just going to be too much. Look at the sheer number of arquebusiers here in the background, being controlled fairly well by AcerGame, poking away at those Manchu. And despite the fact that the Manchu are a very strong unit, I think there's just too many ranged units here in this mix for AcerGame to really be able to get those Manchu to do anything. He did eliminate the Flying Crow at the cost of most of his cavalry, and now I think it's just a situation where AcerGame's got too many ranged units. The Manchu really aren't able to be that effective. You can see they're just forced to kite away from a couple of Changdao, and this fight has just gone perfectly for AcerGame. I mean, he's eliminated all of the units. He's killed everything. A couple of Minutemen coming in from the back, but those are going to get mopped up pretty quick. And now AcerGame, this is the point where you win a fight really hard with China. Your reinforcements keep coming. You keep having more and more upgrades, and your opponent just runs out of gas. And we can see that is certainly going to be the case here for Bad Speed. Look at the scores, 157 to 88.
Wow. I think that's the end of the game there.
Yeah, it's going to be very... in fact, it's nigh uncatchable at this point, that score difference. There's just not much you can do.
Perhaps AcerGame accidentally deletes his units here. What if he did? What if all of those blue units just died? It goes to type something in the chat. He's actually, I'm going to delete what I'm writing here. Oh no, I've deleted all my units. At this point, I think, would that even it up?
Probably, I guess, yeah. The thing is, you'd have to delete the shipments that are, and the new units that are coming in as well, because, look at 10 more arquebusiers joining this mess is not going to make it any easier to deal with. He might need to, delete the town center, too, or something like that. Nah, probably the units would be enough, because at least he would have the tempo to, get back out on the map, but looks like that's not going to be the case.
It doesn't look like it's happened just yet.
The win condition for Red was his opponent deleting all of his stuff, and unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Bad Speed has resigned. AcerGame takes game number 3, currently up 2-1.
Yep, score is 2-1. A fairly convincing victory there, but I think that was more of a build order victory than anything else there. But well executed from AcerGame. Your Confucius Academy looked like a tower when it was a foundation.
That's a misplay, because they are 2 very different sized foundations. There's a very clear difference. I think this is a very well practiced and formulated build from
Bad Speed. Clearly, but in the chat is surprised. Bad Speed says, "Yeah, I didn't see that," and it was thrown off by this. Well executed and well deserved, I would say.
Yeah, it's a good build, very well done, very well executed, and interesting to see. AcerGame charging ahead with some of his own formulated builds, having some success against some of the tried and true builds of the current meta. So interesting to see.
Yeah, love it's great to see innovation at this point, and that the meta is not dead in the water. Age of Empires 3 can be quite volatile and is a very interesting RTS to play.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the cyclical balance that sometimes people talk about in RTS games, right? Where one thing beats another thing until someone figures out something that beats that other thing. And then it goes back to being what was originally better, now beats that other new thing. And so there's like these three things that kind of just work in a triangle of one beats one, one beats one, and one beats one. And you just kind of go around. Because what AcerGame did there was fairly similar to what we saw in like original vanilla TAD FF build. I mean, the old build then, and to be perfectly fair, at one point Porcelain Tower gave you the Summer Palace 400 resources, so it was the Porcelain Tower plus 400 food, which was why it was like it was the no-brainer for the FF, right? At that point it was just ridiculously strong.
They changed that, I'm guessing.
Well, they swapped it out, right? They put the 400 food on the Summer Palace instead of the Porcelain Tower.
Yeah.
Which kind of made the Porcelain Tower take this back seat for a very long time until people realized, hey, you can like still build this thing to go to the third age and get loads of resources from it and still have it be good. But now we're back to the situation where people are also realizing that like you don't have to only build the Porcelain Tower going into the third age. Like part of why it used to still be strong in progressing to the second age is because not just because of the 400 resources it gave, but it also gives you a boatload of resources just from sitting there and generating resources. So
yeah, it's definitely I think it's interesting in the sense that now Bad Speed's seen this and everyone else has seen this. It's something you can scout for, and you can see that tower's going up, and you can perhaps anticipate better something that AcerGame would do, and it wouldn't be as lopsided since you might be able to more adequately protect your war hut and your two villages there, and certainly this absolutely getting dumpstered would not happen as it did here. But as I mentioned, I think well deserved, and credit to AcerGame for innovating.
Yeah, I love the fact that he tried something different, and I love the fact even more that it worked. That makes me really happy to see.
All right, have the community learned to count? The question. 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're getting there. Look, we've got AcerGame 4, 5, 6's game. Somebody, Grill Haxy.
We've got a couple.
Has, filled in the blanks.
Yes, we've got a couple of people duplicating the ones. Unfortunately, we've got two ones. So one of you blokes needs to scoot on up to 5.
One of you lads.
Yeah. And then we'll have 1 through 5. We're getting there. We're getting close.
All right. Well, let's wait for the next one to start then. What is their next map? Do you know?
Yes, the next map is Arkansas.
Arkansas. What do you anticipate on that? I think French and Germans are getting ripe to be played at this point.
Yes, and indeed, in this game, currently AcerGame has French selected, and Bad Speed has Germans. Yeah, you have to figure out which is the right AcerGame09's game, right?
Well, let's order it by rank. That'll be useful. There it is.
Until you realize that AcerGame has like Decade, and he's not even the highest one up of all these Acer games.
Reset back to Conscript 0 games played. Tragic. No. German and France are the civilizations. Looks like it was a pretty good guess.
Yes.
Well, an informed guess, I suppose.
It was going to happen at some point, right? At some point, someone was going to play Germany or French in these first 4 games. And we're now 3 games in and no one's touched Germany or France. And part of that is the map pool. I think people know that they want to play China and Tibet. And AcerGame certainly has played, I think, some of the other stronger civs. He's played Japan and he's played India. And so now it seems like he's going to want to be playing French, and I think we'll either see French versus Germans or a French mirror. I'm curious as to whether or not Acer feels comfortable playing French versus German, or whether or not he would mirror that matchup. I don't actually know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So both civs are going to be fairly similar in terms of play style. usually in the mirror matchup. Well, that's not true. Anyway, the point I'm making is both civs have this Fortress Age potential, and it's not uncommon to see both civilizations doing that in those matchups where France and Germany are being played. But actually, I'm going to switch to British here and click in versus France. Will AcerGame pick up that matchup? I feel like this is, actually not an unfavorable matchup there. That's AcerGame could quite happily click into this one, and I think that's quite a nice method. Will he do it though? That's the question.
Yeah. And AcerGame is like one of those more mirror-oriented players, but I also haven't really seen him play Brits that much, and so I don't know that he would necessarily want to play a Brit mirror, especially against a player like Badspeed, who is a fairly well-known Brit player, knows his way around the British civilization quite well. I'm curious as to whether or not he accepts a mirror here or just clicks in French versus Brit and sticks to his guns, knows he wants to play French, obviously very good with them. So we can see he's even saying in chat, do I French or do I Brit?
I like the fact Badspeed here is not offering mirror matchups. Does, offer matchups that are still completely fine, but are not mirrors, and I think that's a good thing for him.
Yeah.
Especially, as you mentioned, being good at British here. And clearly it's, forcing some sort of indecision out of AcerGame. He's not sure what matchup here he wants to take, the British mirror or the French versus British.
And I think it's smart because he's trying to force somewhat awkward, like he's trying to force AcerGame out of his comfort zone, basically. And AcerGame's comfort zone is playing mirrors with probably French, India, Japan, and China. That's probably what AcerGame has practiced the most going into this tournament. That would be my assumption. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really played with either of these players much recently, but that would be my assumption. And it looks like he's just going to stick to his guns, probably practice.
Go French, thanks, buddy.
And indeed, he is going to play French, so French versus Brit. The quintessential Age of Empires 3 matchup.
Yeah, we've said this before, right? This one, this is a nice one. There's a lot of things you can teach a new player from this, and I swear we say it every time we see French versus British. And I swear I say this every time we see French versus British. It is one of my favorite matchups there, one of the vanilla matchup where you have that one civilization established as the one that wants to boom, the one that wants to sit there, and the other that is the aggressor and needs to pull off this sort of timing sort of window, that critical point. Can the British stabilize against that? This is one of my favorite matchups, and for that reason, I like that style of play. But let's start with AcerGame. Currently 2 points up. AcerGame is 2-1. The score is 2-1 in AcerGame's favor here. We'll see if he has anything special in mind for this matchup, though I don't think we're going to see anything quite as interesting as what he did in the China mirror. But playing as France, and by the looks of it, honestly, I want to know, is he going to build a market? I'm fairly sure he will.
Yeah, especially when he's brought his explorer down south like this. Well, I thought for a minute, for some reason, this was Mongolia and the TP route was up north, but it's not. No.
He's going for a trading post. They're fairly normal things then. Does find 70 food though, and I guess I should resign when I saw it. What? I
think he's talking about the last map. I think he said something about like there was a treasure that didn't spawn or something.
They had 4. There's supposed to be 4 treasures and there were only 3. But to be fair, both players went straight for that one treasure where there should have been 2. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was okay.
I got it bugged versus Kinesi, so it's fair.
Okay, so we do see the trading post out of AcerGame here. Fairly normal things there, and 300 wood start there for British, where he has elected to build 2 manor houses. I'm not sure which is better. Obviously, British likes having 300 wood, but perhaps they would prefer to have 200 wood in this matchup, just so their opponent doesn't have enough wood to build that trading post. Certainly, that sort of Fortress Age timing for France is now going to be stronger as a direct result of having this trading post. And if he'd had, a different crate start, would have gone with the market there, and the matchup may have played out differently.
Yeah, perhaps, but at the same time, I think Brits are always happy to get 2 manors down and just get that really insane eco this early in the game. And
yeah, that's absolutely true.
I mean, it's a trade-off. French will eventually get a trading post probably at some point anyways, and he's not going to miss out that much. The difference between the trading post and the market early in the game is not that much difference, especially when you're going to get both at some point anyways. And so as a result, I don't think he's...
Does catch his opponent's explorer here, though. Look at that. He's managed to force him all the way back to his town. Bad Speed manages to find a settler, actually. That's a really good treasure early on. Wow, that's a really, really good one. That's 200 food, or 100 food every 2 minutes. But does lose a lot of HP as a result of having to get that treasure. And now being captured, well, not in hand combat. Fortunately for him, he's able to get away quite quickly since he's not snared. Back to his town, and as you can see here, the threat of the town center does force away AcerGame, and his explorer is fine. But this does reduce the treasure collecting capabilities for him because he has less health, but also he's not out on the map, and he's going to have sort of less scouting sort of presence.
Yeah,
and maybe he's going to find it difficult to see what's going on.
We have to mention this very quickly. AcerGame did a 12-10 age up. He elected to not chop any wood, and as a result,
oh wow,
yeah,
I didn't notice.
It looks like he's going to do something fairly aggressive as a result of that. I'm curious to see what it's going to be. I just noticed it now as well. I wasn't paying that close of attention early.
After I saw the trading post go down early on, I dismissed any sort of
shenanigans,
shenaniganry, if you will, yeah. And the villager has been scouted out by AcerGame as well. He's doing everything with his scouting units in terms of aggression to match, sort of mirror what I think he's intending to do with the build here. Two forward villagers coming forward, using the scouts aggressively, takes out that explorer there. Badspeed's not going to see this coming. He's going to see his opponent hit up sooner if he obviously notices that, but he's not going to know where the buildings are.
Yeah, and this is really good. I mean, for the French player to be causing this diversion to kill the British explorer, as you mentioned, that's going to give him just that extra little surprise factor of when he ages up that quickly. Of course, the explorer would like to be scouting around in this region, looking for any sort of dual Rex pressure or anything like that. He's just not going to see it coming, and AcerGame, it looks like, I think he's just going to musket rush based on his villager distribution right now. We can see he's got the 2 forward villagers. 1 Rax goes down, perhaps still Rax in a stable, or else 2 Raxes. We'll have to see what he opts for. Could go either way.
His first shipment in the colonial age is I think, going to be very telling of what he intends to do. Yeah. And we'll have to look out for that. But here, he managed to also get a villager on like half HP. There it is. And I think that was the one he got from the treasure here. And now has his scouts sieging down this barracks here, doing ×4 damage versus it since it is in foundation. And these 2 barracks are fairly far forward, which means this is only going to strengthen what AcerGame's pressure is going to be able to achieve, since these are less easy to defend when they're not as close to your town center. I think they're actually outside of the town center's line of sight in terms of range. Yeah, it could be tough.
We have 4. I'm sitting here with 4 Raxes on my screen, waiting for the bloodbath to ensue. 5 muskets do pop out from AcerGame, and this is going to be a very intense game. And oftentimes when we have barracks this close, fairly short, intense games can happen as a result.
Yeah, 700 coin does come out for the British player there.
Oh, wow, he's straight FFing with Brits. He's FFing with Brits.
Oh, wow. He is?
I mean,
but why?
He's trained units now, but yeah. I think he kind of got caught a little bit unaware by what Acer was doing, and as a result of that, like, now he's kind of in scramble mode, panicking a little bit, trying to get everything pulled back to some semblance of normalcy. And AcerGame just continuing away, building a second trading post. He forced a lot of garrison time there with that musket drive-by. And
drive-by muskets.
That's what it was, right? I don't think he didn't actually shoot anything. He just took a little waltz underneath the town center, lost one of them.
The sheer presence alone was it. Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what Acer's follow-up is from this. He's got himself a second trading post, has gone with the more economic route, 700 wood for CDB, and we'll have to see I'm curious to see what kind of look he's trying to accomplish off the back of this. Whether or not we'll see something like 600 wood and some sort of crossbow follow-up, or maybe he drops a stable down and just tries to like duke it out with Muskos, or maybe he even just ships 700 coin and looks to age. It's really hard to say with his current setup.
Here we have some siege going down on this barracks here. Does lose a musketeer effectively for free, since really hasn't done very much damage to that barracks at all, and there he doesn't lose one for free since he does manage to get some damage back at the same time as blue was shooting. But it's these sort of exchanges that he needs to avoid, where he loses the musketeer there, but does have more military units at this point in time. 24 musketeer population compared to his opponent's 11. And let's take a look at the queue. Yes, there's a couple of units in queue for AcerGame, but at this point, well, Bad Speed has more army and is certainly forcing the pressure.
Yeah, and this doesn't feel very good for AcerGame. Just not only on the back of having fewer units than his opponent, but at the same time, we do have to remember that you don't want to engage a Brit player.
Rax? That Rax is going to go down.
Yeah. The important thing is that you don't want to engage a Brit player in a long, extended Age 2 musket war, because, simply put, you don't have the upgrades that the Brit player has. Eventually, the Brit player is going to send musket HP or musket attack, and your muskets are suddenly going to become very inferior. And so that's why traditionally you either expo pike or at least make some sort of expo transition with the French player, or else you just look to age and get some sort of skirm goon, two felk, fast age timing. But neither of those is happening. We can see AcerGame being forced to rebuild both of his barracks behind this, and he's going to have to transition to crossbows at the same time, which is going to be very, very awkward.
Yeah, that's going to be expensive. That wood shipment he sent, not being made as a crossbow, is being made into the back. It's going to have less units as a result of it, but some excellent unit control from Bad Speed here. AcerGame doing everything in his power to come back in here and maybe kill off a unit for free whilst all these red musketeers are sieging down that barracks. But Bad Speed keeping a very close eye on this, getting the siege damage in where he can, but not losing a random musket for free very often, though does here, actually. That's unfortunate for him.
He just wants to brute down the barracks. He's just going to try and siege it, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Has elected not to. Perhaps going to force it off. Is now going to go back in. Maybe he can kill that before anything pops out. Would definitely good. Anyway, excellent unit control from Bad Speed. But AcerGame also trying his hardest to draw the aggro away from the racks and keep it up for as long as he can. But it does eventually go down, as we see.
Yeah, and one other important thing that we've kind of failed to mention, AcerGame has secured all 3 trading posts and has stagecoach research. So despite the fact that he's lost a lot of stuff early in the game, his ego's actually pretty strong behind this. He's got some pretty good stuff going for him. He also has a major tech advantage in terms of just market upgrades. Bad Speed has not researched any market upgrades, not gang saw, not hunting dogs, nothing. So in that regard, he's quite far ahead as well. So if he can continue to draw this out, despite the fact that his units get weaker and weaker as this match progresses, he is economically currently sitting in a pretty good spot.
Although, let's find the villages as well. I think you're going to be pretty happy about that. Not too happy with the trees there, exemplifying the pathing of Age of Empires. Oh, trees. Now getting Amalgamation has cancelled that. Now going to get Steel Traps as well. Charging ahead is AcerGame in terms of those upgrades there, and the score is quite even at this point. I think that's certainly this trade route is very, very relevant.
Yeah, and look what else has just arrived, the most recent shipment. We saw Mito do this against Samwise in this matchup as well.
Yeah. That was a French mirror.
It was a French mirror, you're right.
But either way, yeah, I can see why you'd send it.
Yeah. And it's very interesting. I mean, we're going to have, for the second series that I've casted, at least in a row, we're going to have team early skirmishers coming out of our French players.
I think it's an excellent innovation. If you think about it, right? Against musketeers, what are you going to make? Just more muskets, really. You don't really want to be training crossbowmen. They're not very cost efficient, and because they cost wood. If you can, once you get to a point where, as I've mentioned before, those tangible shipments aren't quite as influential as they are early on, the tech advantage of the skirmisher, since it costs food and coin and is very accessible to make, could just trump the fact that you managed to sort of sneak up to the next stage in a sort of way. Like, you have access to this unit now that you shouldn't really have access to, that is just beats what your opponent's making.
Yeah, but the thing I always have to consider is you can get that same benefit plus the veterancy upgrade for free and the ability to send a whole bunch of other cool stuff just by aging up. And
True. But isn't it sometimes quite difficult to find an opportunity to do that in a French mirror, but also in, that kind of translates over to this game as well?
Well, at the same time, I mean, you have to think, like, well, that shipment is sending, that's a dead shipment. It's basically if you consider maybe he sends 600 coin instead of that shipment or something like that, because that would be, like, another option he would have in its stead. He's basically out the time that it takes to age up. In French, having the fast age up, it takes 40 seconds. So there is that little bit of timing, and that 40 seconds, especially at a high level of play, can become very important. Yeah. But I don't know that the skirms here are going to be that good, just because the longbow retaliation move is going to continue to outrange the skirms, and as long as he just has enough infantry to continue up the pressure, I don't know that it's really going to be that scary to deal with.
And I think I agree. In this matchup specifically, against longbowmen, perhaps it's less useful having the skirmishers right now, since longbowmen replace crossbowmen and are just so much better. They're a unit that costs wood, a sort of a crossbow style that you actually are happy to make just by collecting wood rather than just chipping it or something like that. But I think it's interesting with those 40 seconds you were mentioning. There's that trade-off, right? It's like it's very safe to send early skirm. It's perhaps safer than aging up. And I think that's the only thing we're really discussing here. But in the game right now, 6 longbowmen from Bad Speed, but Eco Theory from AcerGame. AcerGame's setting up for a longer game by the looks of it here. And Bad Speed getting ready to push out with extra shipments. 600 wood, 6 longbowmen, 6 musketeers, all things that add tempo and add units.
Yeah. At some point, AcerGame's going to have to look to add in a stable here as well. He's going to need to have some cap, because now that he's started to train skirms, there's a lot of longbows starting to make their way onto the map. And, I mean, imagine if he had even just like 3 Hussar here up front tanking some of that longbowman damage, forcing the muskets into an awkward position. This would be an even better spot for him to be in. But as it were right now, he's just taking a lot of damage for free from these longbows. And, as they just continue to reinforce out here, just doesn't feel as scary as it would be if there's even just a couple of Hussar here in the mix.
Yeah. Look at those longbowmen, though, getting caught as they pop out of the barracks. Did AcerGame put these skirms here specifically to catch the reinforcing units? It's possible, and I think it was a good choice to do that. Yeah,
at the very least, it cut off the rally. I mean, that's where his rally was at. And it ended up being okay. And here comes the stable. Here's the important thing. This is going to be very, very influential in the next 2 minutes. Because as we can see, Bad Speed continuing to essentially train only longbows at this point, and just reinforce only longbowmen, and then just trying to keep his muskets as safe as possible. And if there's just a few Huss that can force those muskets into an awkward spot, going to be really, really good. Similarly, it looks like we do have a stable up for Bad Speed as well, which is going to be equally as influential as well, right? I mean, take a look at the skirmisher mass that is currently out on the map for AcerGame.
That's very vulnerable to cavalry at this moment in time with the lack of anti-cavalry. Yeah,
it's going to come down to, I think, whoever gets out like this first like batch or two of big pops of Hussar. And whoever it's going to be, if they can get out 5 or 10 Hussar and get them jammed right into the ranged infantry of their opponent, going to be very strong. And here come the first 5 Hussar for AcerGame.
1,000 resources worth of Hussars entering the fray. Look at that, though. We do have Wilderness Warfare has been sent. Improves the efficiency of his skirmishers, I believe, in terms of their hit points.
Yeah, makes them very strong. But we can see both players now mixing in Hussar. And it looks like we're just going to be in for a really long, drawn-out play down here. We can see AcerGame obviously sticking to the south side of the map because he doesn't want to give up his trading routes. Ideally, he'd like to take back this trading route that Musket has snatched from him.
Yeah, and I think
But I think similarly, soon we're going to see, I mean, if either player were to run a couple Hussar up here, look at how many very exposed villagers there are, Could be a scary situation if Acer just decides to send, like, even, 3 Hussar up there. But
and I think that will be something that the players will be looking to do shortly, I would imagine, now that they have 2 batches of cavalry each. At this point, you've got perhaps some surplus cavalry. Maybe you can get away with sending 2 or 3 up there, and it's at that point in the game now where they might start thinking about it, though. Looks like Bad Speed is pushing that trading post. That is the thing he has on the agenda. They're using the cavalry, his own, to block, by the looks of it, the incoming blue cavalry from getting anywhere near his units. The musketeers do go into hand combat and are going to try and counter some of these muskets there. Cavalry. good positioning from Bad Speed.
Yeah, and this is the point where longbows standing in the back just are so efficient at dealing damage. They don't have to move. They can just sit there and do so much damage with so much range. Nothing can get away with them. Just kind of jammed in between this trading post and these trees. No real threat from the cav. And just look at how much damage they just continue to dish out. They're just standing there with their infinite range blasting away at all of these blue units and really just getting a really favorable trade as a result of that.
Yeah, and he's, as a result of that, now going to force the remaining army away. Of course, he doesn't want to sacrifice that for free. Force these villagers away from the coin mine, and now just surrender this trading route. Certainly this post, and very likely the other one on the map as well. And he was the one who paid for the upgrade here. Bad Speed going to grab that and snowball this into an even sort of larger benefit.
Yeah. And we can see, I mean, both players now have sent their Cav HP card. And this is the point where Brits, the longer this goes, just turns more and more into their favor. They're going to continue to have a better eco. Look at 64 fills.
Let's get the calculator out. Calculator height in the chat.
Yeah, here we go.
37 multiplied by 1.25 is equal to 46.25 villages. He's definitely quite far behind at this point. Minutemen do join this fight, though, and I feel like that's a desperation move. The cavalry are now gone down, but just look how many longbowmen there are in the back that he has no real way to threaten or deal with.
At the same time, there's a big raid going on up here, which is forcing some awkwardness for Bad Speed. And this is the point that I would have liked to see Acer get to a little bit earlier, forcing the red player off of these topside resources. He had his tempo advantage a little bit with the Cav a little bit earlier. Looks like it's going to be cut off here now by the red Cav joining the fray up to the top. But if he would have done that a little bit earlier and forced some of these resources to not be gathered, potentially could have found himself in a little bit more stable of a position here. But I think just too much time has passed for the Brit player. A few too many upgrades. I do want to point out that Hunting Dog still has not been researched for the red player. He only has Gang Saw as his only economic upgrade. So
good lord. So perhaps the economies aren't quite as bad as I was kind of pointing out. Though having said that, Bad Speed does have the trading route as well. Good positioning from the Hussars.
Yeah, this is the one thing he can't really afford to do is lose his big batch of longbows. We mentioned how important they were in the previous fight.
There's Carreras de Bois in the fight as well. 279 hit points with the upgrades, Wilderness Warfare there, and it looks like AcerGame has managed to lure his opponent up towards the top of the map here with an extra batch of camp, with the villagers nearby as well, and has actually managed to overpower his opponent. In the same vein, gets in a good raid and protects his trading post by luring his opponent up here rather than letting him continue his agenda down in the south, and actually has made the equalizer there, and perhaps is now has a tempo lead, and in continuing to killing villagers here. He's now back in the game, full force, and British now has no longer access to food.
Yeah, he's not back in the game. He's won the game. He can't lose from here, right? I mean, look at, as you mentioned, there's no resources for the Brit player to gather from. He's back to berries in his base. What can he do with that? He's still got a little bit of a coin mine there. But look at the huge tempo swing. 50.
Whoa. Look at, he lost like 15 villagers.
Yeah, I mean, that is... Wow, that really sucks. Just got caught out in a bad spot. Got the longbow... got the longbow caught out of position, and just really tough to recover from now, I guess. That's so disappointing because he was in such a good spot, but I guess it just goes to show how you make one little mistake with positioning with your units, and a good player like Acer is going to capitalize on it, and when he does capitalize on it, got his villagers in there, got the upgrades coming at just the right time, and now 700 coin on the floor is going to be able to gather that up and age if he so chooses.
Yeah. And then once he's up to the next stage, he's in a very good spot. Though, having said that, already has access to skirmishes. They will get shadow teched.
Yep.
It's worth pointing out.
Yeah.
Has the army here and managed to kill so many British villages, just so many. And I think even now at this point, he's actually further ahead in terms of economy. Has better upgrades, including Eco Theory that he sent.
Yeah.
I think Acer is in a tremendous spot, and that is reflected in both his military count and the score of the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's also, had like his second tier upgrades for significantly longer, right? I mean, it's 20 minutes into the game, and he got steel traps and the second coin gathering upgrade 10 minutes ago, which is absolutely huge at this point.
Wow, what a swing!
Yep.
Yeah. Oh dear, Musket! Don't lose those musks. He really doesn't want to do that, and he's going to have to send one of the cavalry units back as well, by the looks of it, since it has been snared. Losing his muskets is really not good for him right now. Of course, it's never good, but when you're behind, you really need to be, catching trades like that from your opponent and not doing them yourself. He's going to slow down to kill this musketeer here, but is he going to get snared? Look, the cavalry coming, cheekily going behind that market there. It looks like they're going to try and head him off and hopefully trap him, though.
It looks like they're gonna live, but I think he's gonna see this age up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just resigns. I mean, when the 5 dragoons come out, when the dragoon count starts to grow now, he doesn't have the resources to formulate any sort of response. He doesn't have the resources to age himself. AcerGame has complete control of this top side of the map. We can see he's got 2 outposts here. Cool. He's got the upgrades. Take a look at his shipments.
Veteran musketeers on the way, and musketeer grenadier combat team Oh wait, wrong player.
Yeah, he's got all of the hand cavalry upgrades though already. One last maybe final desperation play here out of bad speed, and should he not be able to do something right here right now. And there comes the veterancy upgrade. That's going to be very important. Looks like maybe the CDB are going to be forced to at least fight here. But no, GG being called.
In the south of the map, he sees lots of musketeers coming towards that trading post, and of course there's a mill which he's just built, no longer safe. A big investment in itself, forced to make that since he doesn't have access to food, and if he can't even use it. Yeah, I think all of this, and his opponent obviously in the Fortress Age as well. GG! A fairly interesting one. I think Musket Jr. In a fairly solid position after being caught off guard by his opponent's initial early plays. AcerGame metagaming him a bit with these sort of early age ups, and anyway, did have a good start, but kind of was seeing himself in a favorable position after that was Musket Jr. But AcerGame takes it back with a nice fight sort of up in the north of the map, lures his opponent away from the trading route, and forces him up there and takes the fight and snowballs that into the game.
Yeah, really well done by him. Just that one little tipping point over here in the river where he was able to catch the units by surprise, got in a good spot, caught the longbows, got them surrounded with the cav, and snowballed it into complete and utter dominance across all portions of the map, was able to get aged up, and from that point forward, there was no looking back. Really well done by him. It just shows one little mistake, and you're back in business, as it were.
In business. What do you think of early skirms in this particular game?
I mean, it worked. I still go back to I think I would prefer to see the French player just trying to age himself. Yeah. But, I mean, if he's caught in a position where he doesn't have the time to age, they played their role, right? I mean, he definitely was able to pick off a lot of muskets with them. He was able to at least have some sort of a better response to the longbow mass when they did come out and stuff like that. So they worked, but I think I would still, at the end of the day, just prefer to see him try and age. But I mean, it worked. He definitely was able to stabilize off the back of it. And when he had committed to that early 2 racks play anyways, at the very least it was able to give him something. It allowed him to not have to transition quite as early to Cav. And we can still see that at some point he did have to transition to Cav. He still had to make the Hussar switch. He had to get something, but it gave him kind of an intermediate ground to stand on that didn't immediately involve aging. So it worked, but I still think at the end of the day it would probably be better just to age up if possible.
And perhaps it's a play style decision as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Definitely interesting. And again, happy to see innovation in a tournament. The meta's perhaps not as settled as we think it is. Having seen early skirmishes being sent in 2 different series by what I would say are top level players. Clearly there is some school of thought for it being competitive at the very least.
Yes, certainly. And I mean, AcerGame has always been one of those guys who kind of marches to the beat of his own drum, does his own thing.
Japan coming out, Zuta.
Yep.
Is this? We haven't seen Japan yet, have we?
Yeah, we saw it in the first game.
Yeah, it was in the first game. They hit the reset.
Yep. That's the halfway point for 4 games in, right? So they can.
Yeah, so they can now. All of the civilization restrictions are lifted. Badspeed can even play British again in this matchup. Not that you want to do that. Maybe they. Well, he could do that.
He could.
Do
that. I mean,
it's entirely possible. He can do it. Is the point I'm making here? The reset has come in. All civilizations are available. Normally, you cannot play civilizations that you have already played in this series. The score is now 3-1 in AcerGame's favor. He's looking pretty good in this series. All he has to do is win another game, and he is through to the grand finals, and MusketJr, aka Badspeed, will be eliminated. But as we saw from game number 2, actually, Musket has the capacity to do very well against AcerGame, and in that China mirror, I think he just got knocked off his feet. Wasn't expecting that. So that that game, if you kind of discount it, he's not as far behind as it would seem.
Yeah,
I think the point I'm trying to make is Badspeed has the capacity to get back in this series. I think, though it's going to be tough since AcerGame is now on match point.
Yep, and we'll see. I'm curious to see what Badspeed will play. I think he'll play something like French, honestly. Wants to stick to something he knows. I don't know that he'll play Brit versus Japan on this map. This map doesn't have a lot of hunt, and traditionally Brits are best on high hunt maps. And this map has resources, but they're spread out in a way that Japan can very easily shrine them, and they're very difficult to kind of control. Very easy for Japan to spread the British player out here and just kind of abuse the weaknesses of the Brit civilization. Something like French or India perhaps would be his better choices, but
and I suspect that's what we'll see. I don't think it will be British. But having said that, he has been hovering over these. Certainly, as you mentioned, India. And France, go-to civilizations, especially on this map, right?
Yeah.
India particularly.
Yeah, India very good. I think this is a very good map for Japan as well. The thing, I think ideally, this would be a situation where a lot of people would probably just choose a Japan mirror, because I think they are definitely one of the stronger civs on this map, but I don't know that Musket is overly confident in playing his Japanese, so... I don't know that he'll opt for a mirror in this particular matchup.
It's worth pointing out MusketJr, a vanilla player originally, spent a lot of time on vanilla before he came over to the Asian dynasties, and perhaps as a direct result of that is just more experience with vanilla civilizations. We saw he did choose to play Dutch in this series, which is not as good on TAD. They start with one fewer villager and they get less XP from when their banks are built. Just not as competitive, but chose it anyway. And as you're saying, perhaps Japan is not one of his go-to civilizations here, when really it needs to be on this map in this series here. Still deciding what civilization he wants to pick. Neither player has clicked in here. But let's go over these players. AcerGame, worth pointing out, took out Kinesi in this tournament in a very close 4-3 series. A well-deserved place in the semi-finals. Kinesi, a very strong player. But Badspeed has eliminated some big names as well. Diroga. Black Star OP. Black Star, yeah, for sure.
I also want to point out that AcerGame not only beat Kinesi, but... there's my dang thing going on in the background. He not only...
I wondered who that was, honestly.
It was... I have an Amazon Echo, and I must have said something that sounded like the keyword to activate it, and it just... it started talking. It said, sorry, I do not understand.
I swear Zuta lived alone.
Yeah, it said, sorry, I do not understand the command that you tried to give me, or something like that. But basically, what it comes down to is, not only did AcerGame beat Kinesi, but he beat Kinesi's Portuguese on Manchuria, which to me was the more impressive thing. So far, Kinesi had been rock solid on that map, and he managed to beat him on that map. So it wasn't just a fluke; he beat him on water as well.
Yeah.
So
certainly, Aztec does come out. Hopefully, Badspeed has read Gaia's Guide, and will be adequate. With I had to chuck Gaia in there. Yeah. If you sign up to the ESOC forums, you do get Gaia's Guide to Aztecs for free. It is worth mentioning.
For free.
I'm sorry, Guy. Have you not heard that joke?
No, I haven't. What?
People just chucking in this, that, and the other. Also, you get Gaia's Aztec Guide for free. Yep.
Interesting.
I don't know how, but Gaia has suddenly become this go-to name who wins every single straw poll, who gets blamed every single time it starts lagging. I was even playing Hearthstone and it disconnected me in the middle of a game and the chat blamed Gaia. I don't know how that happened, but he's become some sort of meme. I hope he's embracing it. But I do think it's very funny, and I hope the guy's okay with it.
I would find it annoying if it were me, but...
Look at all the people in the chat, though, with Gaia in their name.
Yeah. But celebrity status achieved. But it looks like Badspeed taking Aztec, which, to be fair, is not a bad civ. Like, he could just try and rush down Japan or something like that. And play aggressively. Not give Acer, the time to really be ready. We'll have to see. Also, it is a water map. There is water. Aztec does have schooners, has some pretty good water play as well, so there is that option as well.
I'm not necessarily sure if I've seen MusketJr go for water play in the past. I'm not sure how well versed he is at it. It's a skill that some players embrace, Boneng, Kanisi,
yes,
but others stick to these sort of land style maps and sort of very land focused agendas. Players that come to mind are Samwise 12, H2O, ironically since his name is water. But I think Badspeed sits in that camp. He has clicked into the matchup though. Will AcerGame be happy with it, do you think?
For me, this is not ever a matchup that I've really struggled with. There are some there's basically two things that Aztec can do. They can play incredibly aggressively and just try and like knock down your Tsushima Shrine and stop you from ever get rolling at all, or else they can play the more timing based, control the map, just like a lot of civs play against Japan, right? Where you control the map, kill shrines, kind of secure your half of the map, make sure you have resources to gather from for the first 12 to 14 minutes, and then timing push when Japan is forced to do something like send cherry orchards or something that's not as ideal. But that being said, I still don't really feel too bad for Acer on this map. I feel like this is a pretty good map for him, as I've mentioned. Predictable routes where your opponent is going to be. Very wide map, lots of room to spread out your shrines, meaning that he's going to have to spend a lot of time navigating, where your shrines are and sieging them down in order to adequately siege. And I don't know. It just feels like Badspeed is kind of just throwing up the white flag at this point and saying, "Oh, I'm just going to try something completely different because I don't feel comfortable playing a Japan mirror."
All right. Well, looks like he's going to click into Aztec then. So let's get this underway, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to game number 5 in this best of 7 series. The score is currently 3-1 in AcerGame's favor. This is match point for AcerGame. Should he win this game, he will progress to the grand finals of the ESOC Summer Championships 2015, and Badspeed, would be eliminated. This is, however, it's not over yet. As I've mentioned, Badspeed's taken out some big names and has, is deserving to be here, and I think has the capacity to put up a fight here. We'll see what happens. But Zoo, I'm gonna let you do the intro because I need to be right back.
Ooh, I have to do the introduction. All right, well,
I'll be just one moment.
All right. Well, so we do have Badspeed, as Interjection mentioned, spawning over here on the left-hand side of the map. He is playing the Aztec civilization, and his opponent, AcerGame, of course, playing the Japanese civilization, spawning in the right side of the map. The map is Baja, California. It does have kind of these 3 chokes. We can see there's one choke here. A second choke right in the middle of the map that does conveniently have this trading post wedged in the middle. And similarly, down on the third side, we also have this choke over here. Now, all of these chokes are fairly fairly small. We can see this one, in fact, with the trees in it, is quite small. The one in the middle of the map, a little bit wider open, just due to the fact that the trading post is always going to spawn there. But as I mentioned, lots of room, or very little room rather, to navigate your way through these chokes, and so fairly predictable attack routes. And as a result of that, we'll have to see whether or not that actually comes into play here. Taking a look at the treasures early in the game, it looks like we did have Bad Speed picking up a 95 wood treasure. And similarly, AcerGame going to be able to pick up an 80 wood treasure. So both players getting really nice, big, juicy wood treasures early in the game. Definitely going to help out AcerGame. We can see he's got his 107 wood currently gathered, enough to make a shrine with that Portuguese consulate. And we'll see where he elects to put that down. I do just want to cover the map in general. As I mentioned, there's not a lot of hunt. And we take a look at some of these, smaller hunts that are around. Some of them are fairly spread out, and so as a result, once you get past this one, maybe two, third little herd here, which can all be difficult to herd, you have to go very long ways for your next hunts, and as a result of that, very easy for Japan just to drop down like a shrine. Like imagine a shrine back here in this corner, right? It's going to be very difficult to both pressure a shrine up here in this top corner of the map, and at the same time apply any sort of presence over here into the Japanese player's base, with just the way that the bases are situated across from each other. So AcerGame has built one of his shrines up here on the north side, and I think we'll look to see him just spread out as much as possible and just try and control as much of the map vision-wise with these shrines as possible. A little bit of a contention going on here with the
150. Who went it down? I didn't even know who went there for the AcerGame. Does pick it up. 150 coin going to him. I wasn't actually sure who went down for that. It looks like exactly the same time.
Yeah, oof. And Japan doing Japan stuff. See you later.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
Thanks for the coin. See you later.
Yeah, AcerGame has gotten some really good treasures. Has identified a 60 wood treasure over here as well. Going to be able to pick that up with his other explorer, knowing that his opponent is nowhere nearby due to the fact that he was just currently engaged with his other explorer down on the other side of the map. So no threat there. Takes this 60 wood treasure and all of a sudden finds himself with, look at all the treasures he's gathered. 80 wood, 20 coin, 10 coin, 150 coin, and now 60 wood as well. So really good start for the Japanese player.
He's going to find those market upgrades very, very easy to grab with that extra coin, and certainly the extra wood is going to be really nice for the extra shrines he's going to be laying down. Japan off to a rocket of a start, and is going to be happy with that, of course. What, however, does Bad Speed have in mind? Doesn't have quite the same treasures, but Japan still has, vulnerability early on in the game, and Aztec, certainly can capitalize on that. What is he up to at this point? We do see forward villager coming forward, though it's going to be scouted by AcerGame scout building this here. Yeah. What does go down with 3 villagers building it? Looks like he wants that up pretty quick, and we're going to see units coming out.
Yeah, pretty standard play, honestly, out of Aztec. AcerGame needs to be careful that he doesn't lose his scout here in the middle. Ooh, that's a big mistake if he loses that, and it looks like he is going to lose that. And similarly, also going to lose the shrine with the...
Not too happy about that, but it's actually really, really good for Bad Speed. Musket going to be very happy about that, considering he is, 3 games down, or his opponent's off match point. He's really going to be happy about everything that keeps him in this series and helps him pick up another win. Going to lose the shrine, you say?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's right on top of the warlord, right? So, I mean, the other good thing is, at the very least, he'll know what units are popping out of here early. If you were to see something like 6 Puma come out incredibly early, he would know, oh crap, I need to deal with this in some way.
And I think that might be the case. Take a look at the queue. He's got 3 Puma Spearmen in queue currently, and there could be a shipment, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it could be just a chance that he's just going to try and rush down his opponent. 3 Pumas coming out. We'll see what his next shipment is. Did send 700 wood as the intermediary, fairly standard, just to use that to basically get housing and infrastructure established early in the game. But we'll see whether or not he continues with some sort of economic play behind this, or if it's just going to be
There it is.
aggression. And it looks like it's going to be aggression. 6 Pumas coming out. Looks like he's just gonna try and find the shrines. But as I was pointing out when you were gone early in this game, look at where the shrines are spread out to. These are in such awkward spots to siege with those Pumas that you really have to make a conscious decision to go down there and siege them. It's not like they're out here in the middle of the map and you can bounce back and forth between the base and the shrines very easily. And that's going to make it a little bit awkward moving forward for Musket. And we'll have to see how he deals with that. 5 Yumis do pop out. Looks like they're going to be able to do some damage here. Only 4 Yumis, but is able to pick off 1 of the Pumas as a result of that. But I think he's going to be fine. Look at AcerGame's. Look at the way that he's built his base. So smart. He's got such good protection here. And as a result of that, this pressure that is trying to be mounted by Bad Speed just not being really that successful. And I don't know. Here comes 10 Mace, and it looks like he's committed to the aggression. As I mentioned, he has a couple of options of what he wants to do, whether it was 700 wood, 5 Vil, and then military shipments, or just 700 wood and straight military shipments. Looks like he's just going to try and play as aggressively as possible, and I don't know how well that's going to work out for him here moving forward.
Sorry, I was just fixing something. I had a unexpected program open. I was just closing down, and Norton's like, "Oh, you want to do this right now because you're not busy?" No. Anyway, yeah, there's those. Wow, the walls are really well placed. Certainly going to be very tough to get behind them. Nicely built, as you pointed out there. He's going to lose a lot of units for free from the Town Center Fire and the arrow here as he tanks down this consulate, which has a ton of hit points. The Mace Holton, though, are doing some damage.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious as to why AcerGame. Oh wow, it looks like he's Shinobi. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm curious as to why he switched away from the Portuguese consulate. I would have expected him to stay on the Portuguese consulate and just ship Bestieros, but elected not to, and as a result of that, a couple Shinobi here out for AcerGame. Does of course still have that passive bonus from the consulate as a result of this, but. Perhaps could have continued to leverage the Portuguese consulate to continue his shrine boom a little bit longer, and then just use those Bestieros to bolster his army behind this. But that not being the case, making Shinobi instead, still has a couple of Yumis out and trying to establish this wall back out front to make sure he still has something to stand behind when all is said and done.
And I like that. That comes out very quickly, the repair on the wall there, constructing a new one. And definitely, a good choice there with all these ranged infantry just can sit behind it. And I believe these do outrange the Mace Holton.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yumis for sure definitely do. We can see the Shinobi a little less range, but the Yumi's definitely going to be able to sit behind this wall, deal a lot of damage to the Mace. And at this point, Musket's a bit all in here with his play. We can see his shipments have been 6 Puma, 10 Mace, 9 Mace. He is fairly committed to trying to kill his opponent right now, and should he fail to do so, AcerGame's got these shrines going. He's got the scouts continuing to build shrines down here to the south of the map. And the more time that goes by, the more shrines that get up, the stronger the economy gets, the better Japan is going to have chances of holding this. Now, at the same time, AcerGame's infrastructure is not great. His build has once again been forced into some sort of obscurity. His upgrades were decent. Were decent, I say, because he no longer has a market and will not be improving them. Had Imperial bureaucracy researching, and I think this is go time. I think Musket's identified it. This is probably his chance to try and win the game, although I don't know if it'll be enough. Minutemen being called, at the very least, forcing a Minutemen call.
Yeah, definitely. But has he got the capacity to do enough damage? Japan just sits there with his cherry orchards in the back. He's got his shrines working for him over the map, though he doesn't have particularly many of them. You can't really contain Japan very well, and that's what you really want to normally be doing with this army here. And it's going to be difficult to really do any more damage there without being punished by all these Yumi archers. And
one thing I do love is what he's doing here with these 2 Pumas. 2 Pumas, continuing to work around the map, clear out the map of shrines, making sure that he's able to kill as many of them as possible. And looks like we're gonna have a little fight here. AcerGame probably just needs to go out here and try and force a fight, or he maybe just risks losing. He actually has a lot of stuff here. He's got quite a bit of stuff, and as a result of that, it looks like he's actually going to be okay.
Yeah, looks like he is okay.
But he's kind of on a bit of a timer too, right? Like he can't afford to continue to lose these shrines.
This is what I was. It's about like his economic potential, right? It's not that amazing. He's not got that many shrines. He's going to continue to lose them, and Aztec is representing a slightly higher villager count at this point in time, although his upgrades are not nearly as good.
Yeah.
And will never be as good since he cannot have steel traps.
Rest in peace, Bible Thump. But yeah, I don't know. AcerGame's army is just looking too strong. This is the point where any number of cav is going to be insurmountable to deal with, and we can see one Nagy out. Stable has been established from the consulate rickshaw, and as a result of that, now once even 2 or 3 more Nagys work their way into this, going to be very, very difficult to pull together enough anti-cav to deal with this, and I think we're going to see that starting to take place here.
Oh no! Does this what does this spell for bad speed?
Yeah, and I mean we can see he is trying to make the economic swing behind this. He does have 3 warrior priests. He does have 5 villagers coming out, and to his credit, he does have, a 10 villager advantage. His market upgrades aren't very good. He does only have hunting dogs, but he has secured the map. He's wiped out a lot of the shrines that were, on top of his second, third, fourth resources. So he is definitely doing the right things in that regard. But at the same time, what he says is honestly true. Like there is no anti-cav really in this match, and if he just gets enough cav to be able to just stand there, force what few pumas there are to kind of just stand there and face tank the ashy damage, and then just push forward, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to make a comeback. And I think AcerGame knows that now. He has AcerGaro-MusketJr attack sent. He has a full read on where Bad Speed's army is currently standing, and I think we're going to see him want to push out here. A couple more clubs being added into the mix. Does he have any more cav in queue? That'll be the important thing. Does have a cav in queue. We'll see how many he gets out. But I think AcerGame can be fully expected pushing off the back of this, and certainly has the means to do so as he comes roaring out of his base. 3 more cav now in queue. The upgrade is finished, and he does have AcerGaro musket attack, and this is the point where Japan, I think, is just going to be able to roll out of his base and going to be able to hit this very strong timing. The time is now. He is ready to fight.
The time is now. Yeah. Japan is at that point where it's very strong. He's gotten a larger military mass. Bad Speed's on the retreat, heading away from it. He doesn't really want to confront it head on because he's going to lose that fight. You can see that. And equally, though, he can continue to play the game. He has got a stronger economy in terms of villager count. But equally, this is Japan we're talking about. He has access to more market upgrades and has researched those market upgrades. Aztec doesn't have steel traps or anything like that. And also the shrines on the map as well. I think in terms of economic potential, Japan is possibly better. And with a stronger army as well, really, what do you do? There's not very much you can. But scores are still very even, and perhaps some sort of miracle positioning could help him out, but there isn't particularly much anti-cavalry, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And Puma Spearmen quite easy to pick off, having fairly low hit points. They're no Dragoon in the sense that you can keep them safe at the back behind your army, and they'll get eaten up quite quickly versus what Japan has here. And this is slowly or quickly becoming definitely quickly becoming Japan's game.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what AcerGame is waiting for, whether or not he's waiting for something like a daimyo shipment, or whether or not he's just going to maybe try and age up. Neither do I feel. I feel like he's kind of missed his time. I feel like he definitely could have just smashed through there and won. I mean, it's always easier, when we have full vision on the map to say, well, he could just push out and win, but now, he's allowed the Aztec player to kind of remask, get his villagers redistributed, and maybe missed a little bit of a timing, although that said, big fight going to happen right now.
Yeah, it could. Those cavalry are not in a good position there, up very close to the Puma Spearmen, and are going to have to get away pretty promptish. But there are a lot of AcerGare Musketeers here. They're going to pick them off quite quickly, and once they're all gone, the Cav can go in there and do lots of damage to the Mace Holton. Having said that, though, no cavalry left, but Mace Holton. They count as one pop, but so do AcerGares, and they represent much more strength.
Yeah,
Pop.
The Ashies are just so upgraded at this point as well, right? Just
the population is not a very good read on the army strength here, considering the sheer difference in power level of the units with the upgrades, as you mentioned. Good game there. AcerGame does take this series and progresses to the grand finals. MusketJr is eliminated.
With a 2G for me. Let's see what we got.
GG.
AcerGame. Classic AcerGame.
Well played to the guy there. AcerGame perhaps, certainly we'll be seeing him in the finals. Perhaps could take a championship name as an accolade as part of his AoE 3 career. It's not much. That's something not many players can say.
The one thing that worries me about AcerGame in the finals is he's going to run into a player who basically, and I'm making an assumption already about the other semifinal, but I feel like he's going to run into Samwise 12 in the finals, who is basically just a more polished, more well-rounded version of AcerGame. Plays all of Acer's civs with better builds, better mechanics, and it to some degree, I think, Musket got a bit disheartened here. I mean, we saw, like, in Game 1 he played Dutch versus Japan, and that's not what Sam will do. Sam will play a Japan mirror, and he will execute his build fully. And so, to some degree, Acer, kind of, maybe his civ choice here and is what won him the games more than actual skill, but at the same time, you can't discredit what he just did. I mean, he just dismantled Musket, to be perfectly fair. It was a fairly lopsided series.
Yeah, certainly in some of the games, that is definitely true. Did pick up one game, MusketJr, but one game is definitely not enough. Samwise 12, a formidable player, and perhaps we will see him in the grand finals as well. We do tomorrow have... Actually, tomorrow is quite interesting. From 10 GMT tomorrow, there's a Japanese one-on-one cup, I believe. The link is available on my YouTube video that I put up. If you want to go to my channel's link, you can go watch their sort of tournament tomorrow from 10 a.m. GMT. That is local time. That's in the evening for them. It's like a full tournament with one-on-ones, and the finals is a best of 3. I think that's going to be pretty interesting. You do have to sign up to a website to watch it, but it takes about 30 seconds to do so, and it's very easy. But tomorrow we also have the quarterfinals, not the semifinals. This is the semifinals. We have a quarterfinals match between Fard and Goon Goon, which didn't get played, which will be played tomorrow at 12 GMT. I will not be available to cast that. I will unfortunately have to be at work. It's a bank holiday weekend in the UK, and they kind of... need me. They did offer me the opportunity to have the day off, but I didn't think any games were being played, so I said I could work, and they kind of needed it. So I did do that. Unfortunately, that game did get scheduled very late, but hopefully we'll have... Well, anyway, it's going to be played, so that's the main thing. And then,
12 GMT is 5 o'clock in the morning for me. I don't think
you'll make that either. No. It's quite early. Well, we'll see. That will get covered, I would imagine, but not by me or Zuta. So there is that. Do tune in for that if you're awake. If it's not 5 a.m. for you, you can tune into that one, certainly. And then we will have the semi-finals match between Samwise 12 and the outcome of tomorrow's game. And then, of course, the finals will ensue at some point as well. But this does conclude this semi-finals match. A solid 4-1 victory in AcerGame's favor. Well played to the guy. Nice to see some sort of innovations there and certain play.
Yep. Well done by Acer. Congrats to him for advancing to the next round. So that is also going to do it for Saturday SmackDown. I don't have any replays for today.
It was a fairly long. I think it was a justified series. That was
I think it was a good series as well.
5 games, right?
I do want to also mention that I won't be here for SmackDown next week. I will be hiking in the mountains. Hopefully at this time next week I will be standing on top of one of the tallest mountains in the United States. So I will not be available to cast. Will not be available to cast Age of Empires 3 next week due to the fact that I will be standing on a mountain. So,
what compels you to go there?
I just have
Sounds like
friends.
fun.
Yeah, I just have friends coming for the weekend, and we decided we were gonna go hiking before summer ran out, and it got to be too cold up in the mountains. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of my buddies just wants to do it, so that's what we're gonna do.